Chapter 1439. Chu Yuyue's heart suddenly tightened. Rong Xiu turned around and shook his head at her, indicating for her to calm down. The voices continued to come from downstairs. What's going on? Elder Meng was also stunned by the news, but his first reaction was disbelief. Chu Yu is Rong Xiu's man. How could he have any connection with the Black Demon Cave? Moreover, the Heavenly Square Cauldron is one of the 10 great sacred artifacts, and it has been lost for thousands of years without a trace. Why is it suddenly said that Chu Yu has it? Such a treasure was with that stinky brat. Who would believe it? I don't believe it either. But this news has already spread outside. We can't just ignore it. Elder Wensi was also very anxious. This time, they didn't come in person and they all changed to letters, but the wording was strict and their attitude was clear. Now that Bo Yen is dealing with this matter, he asked me to come over and check on Chu Yu's situation. No matter what, they couldn't avoid it this time. The Black Demon Cave's status in the Divine Ruins world was not low, but their reputation was terrible. This was because their cultivation method was extremely evil and tyrannical. Furthermore, most of the people in their sect were also vicious and vicious. Their methods were cruel. The other families and sects in the Divine Ruins world rarely interacted with them. Many of them had deep enmity with them. It was a pity that the Black Demon Cave's strength was tyrannical, and they were not to be trifled with, so until now, the best choice was to stay away from them. Now that Chu Yu's name was connected to the Black Demon Cave, how could they not care? If it weren't for the fact that Elder Bo Yen and Rong Xiu had solemnly warned them and had more concerns, they would have directly charged over. Needless to say, the rumor also said that the Heavenly Square Cauldron was already with Chu Yu. If it was an ordinary treasure, it would be fine, but this was one of the 10 great sacred artifacts. In the Divine Ruins world, there were a few families that had the 10 great sacred artifacts, and they had more confidence than others. It was not an exaggeration to say that such a treasure was enough to directly promote a second-rate family to a first-rate one. And it was the kind that had a high status and a lot of power. Who wouldn't be tempted? Within the Divine Ruins world, aristocratic families and clans stood in great numbers. Wanting to occupy a place in this intense competition was simply as difficult as ascending to the heavens. But if he had the 10 great sacred artifacts, all of this would be easily solved. Therefore, this time, it wasn't just the first-rate aristocratic families who sent letters to question him. Even some second-rate aristocratic families began to secretly make moves. The situation was urgent, otherwise, Elder Wensi would not have rushed in like this. Elder Meng, this matter is of great importance. Chu Yu will not be able to avoid it no matter what. Bo Yen asked me to take a look. How is his body recovering? If you've recovered, we'll go over and discuss how to deal with this matter. Elder Wensi finally revealed the purpose of this trip. Elder Meng furrowed his brows and looked solemn. Since it involved the Black Demon Cave and the Heavenly Square Cauldron, it was indeed troublesome. But Chu Yu had just failed to break through to the middle stage of the 9th stage a few days ago. Now was the crucial time to recuperate his body. How could he go out like this? Wasn't this taking his body and future as a joke? Chu Yu, there are still some things that I need to take care of. Can Bo Yen wait a little longer? Elder Wensi asked. How long will it take? Half a month, no, 10 days. Elder Meng said with some uncertainty. In fact, in this situation, if it was an ordinary cultivator, they wouldn't be able to recover without 2 or 3 months. Fortunately, Chu Yu's physique was better, and Rong Xiu had rushed over in time and had been helping from behind, which allowed Chu Yu to recover so quickly. But no matter how fast it would still take a certain amount of time. Elder Wensi smiled bitterly and awkwardly. Do you think that's possible? Those people wanted nothing more than to rush over again and take Chu Yu away. Waiting for Elder Bo Yan's reply was the only concession they were willing to make. How could they be willing to wait for 10 days for nothing? Even if it was 5 days, they would still be very anxious. What can we do? How far do these people want to push Chu Yu? He's only 17 years old. Elder Meng was also furious. Although every time Chu Yu came in he would act very impatient, but in reality he liked this child in his heart. Peng Min Mountain's position was special. For a long time, he was the only one who had been silently guarding it. Loneliness, coldness, and boredom. Occasionally, there would be some students who made mistakes and were locked up, but most of them were scared witless, their faces pale, and did not dare to say a word. When the punishment time was up, those bastards would run away faster than anyone else. But Chuyu was different. He was talented, smart, and the most important thing was that he was lively and witty, very interesting. He said that he did not want to see him, but in fact he still missed him a little. Now that he heard all these messy things, of course he could not help but speak up for Chuyu. Chuyu's failure to break through was already tragic enough, and now he was being splashed with dirty water for no reason. What was this? Elder Wenxi laughed bitterly. They won't care about this. Last time, Bo Yen and Rong Xiu stepped in and barely protected him, but at that time, although everyone had their suspicions, no one had any evidence, so they compromised. Do you think that this time they will be sent away so easily? Even if one used their toes to think, they would not. With their own interests mixed in, who would be able to watch from the sidelines? Elder Meng's chest seemed to be on fire, as if it was going to rush out in the next moment. Elder Meng. A clear and calm voice came from upstairs. Both Elder Meng and Elder Wenxi were shocked and looked up at the same time. Chuyu. Elder Wenxi opened his mouth. Why was he on the second floor? And the one next to him, isn't that Rong Xiu? He's actually here too? Elder Wenxi, I'll go with you, Chu Luiyue said with a calm expression. Elder Meng immediately objected and frowned. Your body, you have to stay here and recuperate for a while. If he went over now, who knew what would happen? If they made trouble again, with Chu Yu's small body, could he withstand it? Chu Luiyue smiled, and a trace of gratitude to Elder Meng emerged in her heart. She knew that Elder Meng was thinking for her, but things had already gotten to this point. There was no point in hiding anymore. They had already stepped on top of her head, and she still had to endure? No matter what the consideration was, Chu Luiyue knew that she had to come forward. She walked down the stairs, and Rong Xiu was one step behind her and followed her down. Thank you for your kindness, Elder Meng, but this matter started because of me, so I should face it personally. Chu Luiyue curved her lips and smiled. Elder Meng, Elder Wenxi, and Elder Zhang were a little stunned. The young man in front of them was clean and handsome, with a gentle smile, and no trace of nervousness could be seen. This kind of bearing, it really made people look at him in a new light. Elder Meng's heart wavered a little. Are you sure? Those people are not that easy to deal with. Chu Luiyue blinked. I have a clear conscience, so why should I be nervous and afraid of them? As she spoke, she looked at Elder Wenxi. May I ask, Elder Wenxi, do you know who spread this news? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1440. This was the question that Chu Luiyue wanted to know the most right now. Whether it was connecting her to the Black Demon Cave or revealing that the Heavenly Square Cauldron was with her, these things were all extremely secretive. All along, she had been very careful, afraid of revealing the slightest bit. Because she knew too well that if this news were to spread, it would bring her a lot of trouble. But she did not expect that no matter how careful she was, she would still be tricked. She thought that she had hidden it very well, but she did not know that she had been secretly targeted. Who was the other party? How much did they know? Chu Luiyue was not sure. She had too many secrets hidden in her body, and any one of them would cause a huge storm. And with her current strength, it would be very difficult to deal with these problems. Elder Wenxi was stunned for a moment and shook his head. We don't know yet. It seems that in one night, those aristocratic families all knew. Bo Yen has already sent people to investigate, but it would be strange if they could find out. The other party obviously came prepared, so how could they make a mistake on such a small matter? Then someone sent the news to all these people at the same time? Chu Luiyue thought to herself. It's not impossible, no, it should be like this. Elder Wenxi hesitated for a moment and agreed. The letters from these aristocratic families were sent almost at the same time. If they spread the news 1 to 2, 2 to 3, their reaction would not be so orderly and fast. But who was it? Chu Luiyue smiled. The Divine Ruins world is vast, and all the aristocratic families have their own territories. They are all very far from each other, and it is not an easy thing to tell them all this news together. There was a hint of mockery in her black jade-like eyes. In order to deal with her, the other party had put in a lot of effort. Chu Yu, Elder Meng's face was solemn as he listened, and the wrinkles on his face were all wrinkled together. Who did you offend? The other party wanted to spend so much effort to deal with him? Chu Luiyue touched her chin, then spread her hands and smiled. I have offended too many people, and now I can't think of who it is. Elder Meng and Elder Wen looked at each other, speechless. According to Chu Yu's character, it was not impossible for him to do this, but how could this brat still laugh now? Did he know how serious this accusation was? No matter which one was proven to be true, even if he was framed, he would never be able to make a comeback. If any of those aristocratic families were to step on him, Chu Yu would be forever trapped in the 18th level of hell, unable to rise again. Even with the protection of Lingxiao College and Rongxiu, it was still useless. Chu Luiyue cupped his fists respectfully at Senior Meng. Thank you for taking care of me during this period of time, Senior Meng. This student is very grateful. Senior Meng knew that she had made up her mind. He looked at her with a complicated expression. You be careful. The corners of Chu Luiyue's mouth curled up. He nodded and then looked at Elder Wensi. Elder, let's go. How could Elder Wensi not feel uncomfortable in his heart? However, there was no other way now. He could only take one step at a time. He responded, bid farewell to Senior Meng, and then left with Chu Luiyue. Rongxiu followed. Elder Wensi glanced at him and did not object. Instead, he felt more at ease. It seemed that Rongxiu did not intend to sit back and do nothing. With the support of the Yuntian Tower, their situation would definitely be much better. It would more or less make those people feel a little wary. The few of them left quickly. The doors slowly closed, isolating everything outside. There was silence all around. After a long time, Senior Meng sighed softly and turned to go upstairs. Chu Luiyue and Rongxiu followed Senior Meng to the Donghuang Bell Tower. This was not the first time Chu Luiyue had come. In the few months since she entered the academy, she had come more often than most of the students in the academy. Of course, nothing good happened every time. It was the same this time. In fact, it was even worse than before. The incident with Scarlet Heavensword was considered an internal matter of the academy. Considering that she was a student of the academy, the elders would not be too strict on her responsibility. Moreover, she had saved Rongxiu back then. She had made up for her mistakes with her merits, and the matter was over. But this time, with so many aristocratic families pressuring her from the outside, how could it be so easy to solve? Entering the hall, it was solemn. Senior Bo Yen sat at the head of the table, and on the left and right below him sat the elders with important positions in the academy. Senior Wan Zheng was also among them. They're here. Senior Meng Wensi walked at the front and said as he walked in. Everyone looked over. Chu Luiyue immediately felt those gazes pressing down on her as if they were solid. In an instant, it seemed as if the surrounding air had become sticky and cold. Chu Luiyue's face was still calm. She walked straight to the middle and bowed to everyone. Student Chu Yu greets the elders. Rongxiu stood beside her, less than half an arm's distance. Seeing that he had also followed over, Senior Bo Yen was a little surprised. He had just asked someone to invite Rongxiu over, but why did he come over with Senior Meng Wensi and Chu Yu? As if seeing his doubts, Senior Meng Wensi coughed and explained, when I went to Mount Pengmin, I happened to meet Rongxiu there. Everyone then understood. There was nothing strange about this. Mount Pengmin, others could not go, but Rongxiu could. Senior Bo Yen nodded and pointed to a specially reserved empty seat beside Rongxiu. It's good that you're here. Rongxiu, take a seat first. That seat was very close to Senior Bo Yen, and it could be seen how much he valued Rongxiu. Obviously, he did not treat Rongxiu as a student. Today, Rongxiu's identity was the Yuntian Tower's holy son. Rongxiu didn't reject the offer as he agreed and walked over with his long legs to take a seat. Senior Meng Wensi looked at Chu Luiyue worriedly and also sat down in his seat. The door was already closed. In the spacious and noble hall, it was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. A layer of enchantment gently swayed on the wall, completely sealing off this place. All the sounds and movements here would not be transmitted out. Chuyu, did Wenxi explain the current situation to you clearly? Asked Elder Bo Yen in a low voice as he sat up straight and stared at Chu Luiyue with his deep and weathered eyes. Chu Luiyue nodded slightly. I roughly know. Then what do you have to say now? Senior Bo Yen gripped the armrest of the chair tightly with one hand. Are you related to the Black Demon Cave? Did you participate in the matter of the northern region of the primordial wilderness? Also, is the heavenly square cauldron with you? Straight to the point. A short and sharp question. In an instant, the originally quiet hall seemed to become even colder. Countless pairs of eyes fell on Chu Luiyue, waiting for her answer. Chu Luiyue smiled slightly. I have nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave. I am also a victim of the matter of the northern region of the primordial wilderness. As for the heavenly square cauldron, do you think that if I had one of the 10 great sacred artifacts with me, I would still be able to live safely until today? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1441. The young man's voice was clear and bright, his expression sincere. His pair of dark eyes were like black jade that had sunk into the river, covered with a layer of faint luster. When people looked at him, they could not help but be convinced by him. Everyone was stunned, then their minds were shaken. That's right. If Chu Yu really had a treasure on him, and everyone knew about it, how could he be so peaceful for such a long time? Anyone with a brain would take advantage of the fact that not many people knew about it to steal it, right? After all, Chu Yu was only a 9th-level martial artist. If the other party really wanted to steal the treasure, there were many opportunities. Chu Yu was not their opponent. But now, the news had spread everywhere. Everyone was restless and wanted to take a share of the loot. The person who spread the news behind the scenes was obviously targeting Chu Yu. How could Chu Yu be more attractive than the heavenly square cauldron? Wasn't it obvious that they were targeting Chu Yu? Elder Bo Yen secretly heaved a sigh of relief. As long as Chu Yu's situation was not like the rumors, things would be much easier. Otherwise, he really did not know how to clean up this mess. Now that the rumors are everywhere, and many aristocratic families and clans believe it, the situation is very unfavorable for you. Elder Bo Yen released his hand, his index finger tapping on the armrest. You have to think of a way to prove your innocence. This did not make sense. It was obvious that someone was deliberately splashing dirty water, but wanted Chu Yu to prove his innocence. Everyone knew that these things were not easy to do. But there was no other way. These aristocratic families and clans had more or less lost some people in the northern wilderness. But they could not find the person behind the scenes, so they could not help but feel angry. Now that the rumors were everywhere, they naturally chose to unite and use Chu Luiyue as a punching bag. Therefore, all the conflicts were directed at Chu Luiyue. And Chu Luiyue could only accept it. I know. Chu Luiyue smiled. Previously, because of me, I caused a lot of trouble for the academy. I have not formally thanked and apologized to you and the elders. Who would have thought that something like this would happen again so soon? This student really feels apologetic. She said it very sincerely. Some of the elders who had planned to say it was sooner or later could only shut their mouths. In the end, Chu Yu seemed to be quite innocent. Didn't he just follow them to the northern wilderness? Because his luck was good and he obtained some opportunities, he was targeted. What was wrong with that? Not to mention, he had helped Elder Hua Feng and the others a lot. On the academy's side, most of the people didn't have any opinions about him. This child's luck. Elder Bo Yen waved his hand. That matter, there's no need to mention it. You are a student of our Spirit Heaven Academy. At any time, no one is allowed to slander or bully you. Not to mention anything else, even if it was for the sake of the Academy's reputation, they would not back down so easily. Chu Liyue's heart warmed, and her lips curled up as she sincerely said, Thank you, Elder Bo Yen. But there's one thing. Elder Bo Yen's brows were still furrowed. As a condition of compromise, They requested that you give everyone a clear explanation after you come out of Mount Prengmin about the northern wilderness. Now, I'm afraid the Black Demon Cave and the Heavenly Square Sacred Cauldron have to be added. Elder Bo Yen had a headache. The matter was getting out of hand. The trouble at the front had not been resolved, and so many things had happened at the back. Chu Luiyue nodded slightly. Student understands. Since the matter was caused by her, she naturally had to come forward to solve it. Then I'll have to trouble Elder Bo Yen to do me a favor. Speak. Since they want an explanation, I'll give them one. Chu Luiyue's lips curved slightly, but her eyes were clear. I'll have to trouble you to send out an invitation and invite them over. This student will confront them face to face and explain everything clearly. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone was shocked. Chu Yu? Elder Wan Zheng was the first to lose control. You can't be rash. What was this? They had finally gotten rid of those people with great difficulty, and in the blink of an eye, this kid actually took the initiative to invite them over again? Did he think that it was not chaotic enough? If things were to get out of hand, Chu Yu's situation would be extremely dangerous. Chu Luiyue shrugged and looked at him helplessly with a smile. Master, this is the best choice now, isn't it? Lingxiao College could help her once, but it could not help her every time. As long as this matter was not resolved, it would be a hidden danger. Besides, she also wanted to see who was secretly targeting her. She had to find out where the news of the Black Demon Cave and the Heavenly Square Cauldron came from. Seeing Chu Luiyue's firm and fearless attitude, Elder Wan Zheng was speechless for a moment. How could he not know the stakes in this? However, after so many years, he only had this one precious disciple, and naturally, he could not bear to part with her. After a long while, Elder Wan Zheng shook his head. Forget it, since you've already thought it through, then just do it. He would protect her until the end. No matter what, no one could harm a single hair on his disciple. Chu Luiyue smiled gratefully and looked at Elder Bo Yen. Elder Bo Yen suddenly looked at Rong Xiu. Rong Xiu, you see, it was all thanks to Rong Xiu that they were able to stop those people the last time. Now that he had made a decision, he wanted to ask for Rong Xiu's opinion again. Rong Xiu leaned against the back of the chair, his posture lazy and noble. He smiled slightly. Whatever she wants to do, let her be. At most, I will take care of it. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1442. Arrogant. Arrogant. But it was so domineering that it made others speechless. Elder Bo Yen had already understood how important Chu Yu was to Rong Xiu during the confrontation with the crowd, so he wasn't surprised when he heard this. However, many of the others present were still shocked to the point of dizziness. He's holding. The other party wasn't just one or two families, but an entire group. Rong Xiu was actually willing to take such a huge risk for Chu Yu. The relationship between the two of them was indeed extraordinary. Because the two of them had never officially explained it, everyone could only make wild guesses. They didn't believe it at first, but now it seemed that they were brothers. While everyone was secretly amazed, they also finally understood the various situations that had occurred before. No wonder. Ever since Chu Yu came, Rong Xiu had been taking care of him. Now, he didn't even bother to hide it. However, this was ultimately a matter between Rong Xiu and Chu Yu, so others couldn't say anything. Moreover, with Rong Xiu's help, the pressure on the academy would be reduced by a lot. Elder Bo Yen glanced around. Since that's the case, then it's settled. Huafeng, immediately send out the invitations and ask them to meet in 3 days. Speaking of this, Elder Bo Yen paused and hesitated. It wasn't a problem to invite them, and 3 days was definitely enough. After all, that group of people couldn't wait to appear here directly. But the key was, where should they meet? If they were to fight outside, then Lingxiao Academy would be outnumbered and would inevitably suffer. But if it was at the academy, if this matter spread, it would greatly affect Chu Yu's reputation. How would the people in the academy view him? At that time, if there were any accidents, Chu Yu would be criticized and ostracized. Chu Luiyue looked up and swept her gaze across Elder Bo Yan's conflicted face. Of course, she knew what Elder Bo Yan was worried about. Elder, let's set it in Fangzhou City. Chu Luiyue said with a chuckle. That place was close to the academy, and it wouldn't be considered as breaking into the academy. It could attack and defend, and was the most suitable place for the academy. Are you sure? Elder Bo Yen was still hesitant. Chu Luiyue nodded. Thank you and the elders for your hard work. This time I will surely solve all these problems. The elders dispersed and began to prepare for the meeting 3 days later. The matter this time might be a tough battle, so no matter what, they had to do everything well and not make the slightest mistake. In the end, only a few people were left in the room. Chu Luiyue bowed to Elder Bo Yen again. Elder, this student is truly grateful for your help. He was willing to risk the entire academy for her sake. She knew it would not be an easy task. Elder Bo Yen smiled. Don't worry, you're innocent. When the time comes, we'll explain everything. It's not good to drag these troubles on. I'll take this opportunity to solve them all at once. He had had enough of those people's harassment. This time, he had to give them a few tight slaps. Let's see if you can still be so arrogant in the future. Chu Luiyue's eyes flickered. You're right. Actually, you have to thank Rong Xiu for this matter. If it wasn't for him, the other elders wouldn't have been so easy to deal with. Of course, when the time comes, your situation will be much better than expected. As long as there's no evidence, those people won't dare to do anything to you. Elder Bo Yen smiled. Also, not all of those aristocratic families are looking for trouble with you. Some of them are on our side, such as the Meteor sect. Chu Luiyue came to a realization and the corners of her lips curled up. Shiru must have mediated in this matter. She had saved Shiru's life, but she had never thought of asking her to repay the favor. She did not expect Shiru to be so concerned about this matter. Under such circumstances, it must have taken her a lot of effort to persuade the Meteor sect to stand on her side. This was not an easy task at all. So you don't have to be too worried. When the time comes, just say what you want to say. Elder Bo Yen felt a little more confident now. Let's see who dares to wrongly accuse you. Chu Luiyue nodded with a smile. That's right. Could it be that those people would dissect her on the spot and examine her bit by bit? She wanted to see how lively this scene would be. Lingxiao College's invitation was sent out very quickly. The aristocratic families, who were ready to make a move, were stunned when they received the news. Then they became excited. Lingxiao College would actually do such a thing. To be so daring, how confident were they? However, these were not important. What was important was that this time, everyone's focus was on Chuyu. He would face everyone head-on. Black Demon Cave, Northern Wilderness, Heavenly Square Cauldron. All the mysteries would be solved one by one. For a time, the entire Divine Ruins world was in a state of turmoil. What? Lingxiao College invited all of them to gather in Fangzhou City? Ethereal Hall. Bailey Jun looked at the news in his hand and could not believe his eyes. What is Lingxiao College trying to do? For many years, the aristocratic families did not have close ties with each other, and they had always maintained a delicate balance. Yet, Lingxiao College actually wanted to break this balance. Even if they had a strong foundation, this was too daring. Elder Yu Jingzuan stood respectfully below. Patriarch, you don't know, but recently, rumors about Chuyu have been spreading all over the Divine Ruins. The Spirit Heaven Academy was forced to do this because they had no other choice, right? Bailey Jun frowned. Chuyu? Who's that? Jiang Jiwon, who was pouring tea by the side, glanced at Yu Jingzuan with jealousy. The academy removed her from the list, but in the blink of an eye, they went to such an extent for Chuyu. Even if they treated him differently, they shouldn't go overboard. She suppressed the jealousy and resentment in her heart and said softly, Chuyu is a new student who joined the academy a few months ago. He's quite talented, and his relationship with Rong Xiu seems to be quite good. These words immediately attracted Bailey Jun's attention. What do you mean by, not bad? Wasn't Rong Xiu a loner in the academy? Jiang Jiwon bit her lips. Rong Xiu is personally guiding him in his cultivation, and they both live in Jiuheng Mountain. He's really taking good care of him. Last time, when Chuyu made a mistake, it was Rong Xiu who interceded for him. Bailey Jun slammed his cup down heavily. A dull thud sounded. Digression, I have some matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving very late. Perhaps it's after dark. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from LoveNet. Chapter 1443. Jiang Jiwon shuddered and her lips turned pale. She quickly put down the teapot. Grandpa Chun, I shouldn't have said so much. Yuan, this has nothing to do with you. Bailey Jun looked at her and felt sorry for her. He immediately softened his tone. However, in his eyes, there was still anger that had not been extinguished. I just think that Rong Xiu has gone too far. Back then, when you followed him to the academy, he didn't take care of you at all. Later, he just left you alone in Lingxiao College. Didn't he think about how much trouble a young girl like you would encounter in such a strange place? I thought that he was cold and indifferent, so I didn't care. But now, what is this? He's helping someone else train a disciple. He personally trained her and even lived together in Jiuheng Mountain. Even Jiang Jiwon didn't receive such treatment. What right did Chuyu, who came out of nowhere, have? Even if he doesn't like you, he shouldn't treat you so differently. This makes you. How could Jiang Jiwon put her face in front of others? Jiang Jiwon lowered her head and said in a low voice. Brother Rong Xiu has his own considerations. Please don't blame him. Bailey Jun looked at her and felt even worse. Jiang Jiwon grew up by his side. When had she ever suffered so much? Now that she had been expelled from Lingxiao College, Chuyu could persuade the entire academy to support him. How could she feel good? Yuan, don't worry. Grandpa will definitely stand up for you this time. Bailey Jun said and stood up. Jiang Jiwon was shocked and looked up at him in surprise. 2 drops of tears were still hanging in the corners of her eyes. Grandpa Chun, what are you doing? Bailey Jun snorted coldly. Going to Lingxiao College. Jiang Jiwon's heart skipped a beat. Even Elder Yu Jingzuan, who was standing below, was somewhat dazed. He almost thought that he had misheard. Patriarchu, are you serious? Bailey Chun walked out of the room and glared at him coldly. Do I look like I'm joking with you? Elder Yu Jingzuan broke out in a cold sweat. How could that be? This is not appropriate. But clan leader, Lingxiao College didn't send an invitation to our Yuntian Tower. It's not easy to go. Bailey Jun didn't care at all and sneered. What's wrong? I've been in seclusion for a few years. Now, I'm not even qualified to go to Lingxiao College? That's not what I meant. Elder Yu Jingzuan's blood froze. He hurriedly explained in a panic. It's just that this matter involves a lot of things. Many first-class families will definitely go to Fangzhou City. When they gather, no one can say for sure what will happen. You've just come out of seclusion, and there are many things in Yuntian Tower that you need to deal with personally. Even if he used his toes to think, he would know that that place was about to become a battlefield. Why would he go there at this time? However, Bailey Jun didn't take his objection to heart. He waved his hand. For the past few years, I've been in seclusion and didn't get involved in the affairs of Yuntian Tower. I don't see anything happening. Now that I've been away for a few days, what can I do? You don't have to follow me, I'll go there alone. Although Bailey Jun hadn't been in seclusion for long, he had accumulated too much dissatisfaction and resentment towards Rong Xiu in his heart. Power, status, dignity. Everything that once belonged to him had now been taken away by Rong Xiu. Not only did he want to avenge Jiang Jiwon, but he also wanted to make a show of force. He had to make Rong Xiu understand that he, Bailey Jun, was not dead yet. Seeing that he seemed to have made up his mind, Elder Yu was speechless for a moment and didn't know what to do. Grandpa Chun, I'll go with you. Jiang Jiwon finally reacted and hurriedly followed him. Bailey Jun looked at her disapprovingly. That place is very messy, what are you going to do there? You haven't fully recovered from your injuries yet, so during this time, just stay in Yuntian Tower. On one hand, he was worried about Jiang Jiwon's health and didn't want her to go back and forth. On the other hand, Jiang Jiwon had been expelled from Lingxiao College. Although he could ignore this matter, It didn't mean that others could. It was easy to imagine what would happen if Jiang Ziyuan were to appear there again. It was inevitable that she would be mocked and ridiculed. Jiang Jiwon keenly caught the look on Bailey Jun's face. She had been by his side for many years and could read his mind the best. Therefore, at this moment, she directly guessed Bailey Jun's many concerns. This immediately made her feel uncomfortable all over. Expelled, she was no longer a student of Lingxiao College. Furthermore, he had been chased out in such a disgraceful manner. It wasn't easy for her to escape from the Liang family's pursuit and those people's mocking eyes. It was indeed not a wise choice to go back now. However, she really didn't want to miss out on this good show. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Jiwon's eyes lit up. Grandpa Chun, how about I change my identity and go with you? Bailey Jun was stunned. Respected elder Yu Jing frowned. I'm afraid that's not appropriate. If they were found out, it was fine if Jiang Jiwon was embarrassed, but if the entire Yuntian Tower was implicated, how would it end? Although Elder Yu had deep ties with the Tomb of Immortal Water, he wasn't completely brainless. No matter what, the Yuntian Tower was their foundation. If the Yuntian Tower's reputation was ruined, or even worse, as an elder, he would bear the brunt of it. However, at this moment, Bailey Jun spoke. It's not impossible, but you have to promise that you won't reveal your identity when the time comes. Jiang Jiwon immediately agreed happily. Yes. Clan leader, this, Elder Yu wanted to persuade him again, but Bailey Jun glared at him. Then the two of you must be careful. Bailey Jun brushed his sleeves. His expression was calm, but there was a hint of arrogance in it. Of course. With his current strength, wouldn't it be easy for him to protect Jiang Jiwon? Jiang Jiwon stepped forward and hugged his arm coquettishly. I knew that Grandpa Chun loves me the most. Bailey Jun smiled and tapped her forehead. Hurry up and get changed. I'll be done soon. Lingxiao College. The elders were busy. The news that heroes from all over the world were about to gather in Fang State City to confront Chu Yu quietly spread among the students. Due to the importance of this matter, the elders thought about it again and decided to announce it. After all, even if they didn't announce it now, the students would still know when they arrived outside Fang State City in a few days. The atmosphere of the entire college became tense and cold. It was rare to see people loitering outside. As the time approached, everyone seemed to be nervous. However, at the center of the storm at this moment was calmly cultivating in the tower of Pengmin Mountain. Digression, I'm finally home. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock, mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1444. After discussing the meeting with Elder Bo Yen and the others, Chu Luiyue returned to Mount Pengmin and entered the tower again. This time, Chu Luiyue's reason was simple: to nourish her body. The Millennium Frost Jade bed on the second floor was extremely effective for nourishing the body. Seeing her return, Elder Meng naturally thought that she was here for this. He agreed without hesitation. Elder Bo Yen and the others were hesitant at first, but seeing that Elder Meng's attitude towards her seemed to be good, they were relieved. They could more or less see that Chu Luiyue did not go to Mount Pengmin to suffer. With Elder Meng taking care of her, nothing else was worth mentioning. Rong Xiu did not follow her back. Instead, he returned to Mount Jiuheng and was busy with something. It was quiet and empty all around. Chu Luiyue sat cross-legged on the Millennium Frost Jade bed. Her eyes were closed as she cultivated quietly. She could even hear her own heartbeat clearly. The surrounding force of heaven and earth constantly flowed into her body, circling in the water droplets and spreading to her limbs and bones. This force nourished her muscles, bones, flesh, and blood little by little. The damage caused by the failure of the breakthrough was also gradually recovering. Her body was tough to begin with, and her recovery ability was astonishing. If it were anyone else, it would take at least 2 to 3 months to fully recover from the injuries caused by this situation. But for her, she was almost fully recovered in just a few days. Of course, Rong Xiu's help was indispensable. As Chu Luiyue cultivated, she silently sorted out the recent events in her heart. She had no dealings with the Black Demon Cave. The only thing she had a connection with was that strange soul. It was the one that had been deposited in Shangguan Wan's body back then. That person was indeed from the Black Demon Cave, but the last time they confronted each other outside Fong Province City, he had admitted that he had left the Black Demon Cave. Now, he had nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave. Where did this brilliance come from? What Chu Luiwei cared most about was the Heavenly Square Cauldron. Back then, she had obtained the Heavenly Square Cauldron in the Empire of Yaochen. Very few people knew about this. She knew that this thing was not simple, so she had always been very careful and did not dare to take it out easily. Even the last time in the northern wilderness, she did not use the real Heavenly Square Cauldron. Who was the one who spread the news? Chu Luiwei could not figure it out. Since she could not figure it out, after struggling for a while, Chu Luiwei decided to give up. In any case, in a few days, in Fangzhou City, everything would be revealed. The most important thing now was to increase his strength as soon as possible. Beginner stage, against those people, it would be an easy death. In the world of God. With every increase in strength, one's mengyue otherwise, it was it. However, there were less than 3 days left. If he wanted to break through now, it was too difficult. Even. Chu Luiwei held her breath and focused her mind. In the next moment, she began to gather the force in her body again, and all of it surged toward her dantian. Sigh. I'm afraid this girl has really forgotten about me. On the top floor, Elder Meng leaned lazily on the back of the chair. He held his head with one hand and flicked his horsetail whisk with the other. In front of him, there was still the same door that was silently suspended in the air. Ever since he sensed that the thing inside was restless and wanted to rush out, Elder Meng began to suspect that the girl was coming back. But after waiting for a long time, there was no news at all. His heart began to beat like a drum. Could it be that he was wrong? And for some reason, this thing had not moved for the past 2 days. Elder Meng sighed faintly. Back then, he did not intend to help. But he could not resist the girl's coaxing and pestering, so he took this hot potato. For this thing, he had spent a lot of effort in the past few years. Elder Meng was immersed in the memories of the past. Suddenly, his expression froze, and he quickly stood up. He walked to the stairs and looked down. The stairs were intertwined. Standing here, one could not see the situation below clearly. But the entire tower was under Elder Meng's control, so he could accurately know what was happening below. That kid is trying to break through again. Elder Meng muttered in disbelief. Crazy. This is crazy. How many days has it been since the breakthrough failed? That kid's body hasn't fully recovered yet, right? And now he's doing it again. Elder Meng's figure flashed, and he went straight to the second floor. The lower he went, the more he could feel the changes in the heaven and earth force around him. The power in the space seemed to be guided by something, and all of it converged toward a certain spot on the second floor. Elder Meng did not need to look carefully to know that it was where Chu Yu was now. And the heaven and earth force was clearly going toward that kid. Elder Meng stopped at the corner of the stairs on the 3rd floor. From here, he could see Chu Yu cultivating on the 2nd floor. The young man sat quietly, his shoulders drooping naturally. His hands were on his knees, palms facing the sky. He closed his eyes, and the faint glow shone on his porcelain-like face, making him look like he was in a dream or a fantasy. Elder Meng's hand gripped the railing tightly. His brows were deeply furrowed, and his heart was filled with mixed feelings. Now, Chu Yu was clearly in the middle of a breakthrough. It would not be good to interrupt him now. He could only wait. Feeling the surging force around him, Elder Meng gritted his teeth. This kid, he's too bold. In all these years, he had never seen anyone succeed in making 2 breakthroughs in such a short period of time. He's courting death. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1445. This divine power was snatched from Taizu of the northern underworld. Chu Luiwei had always thought that she would not be able to completely integrate it before she reached the God realm. But now, such a shocking scene had actually happened. And it looked so easy and simple. Chu Liyue subconsciously held her breath. She could feel that the divine power had already integrated into her yuan meridian and blood. And it was this blessing that caused Chu Liyue's aura to soar. She was only one step away from the middle stage of the 9th rank. She closed her eyes, but the waves in her heart could not be calmed down for a long time. What was this place? And where did this terrifying pressure come from? Most importantly, why was everything here helping her so naturally? Countless thoughts flashed through Chu Liyue's mind. Because of the arrival of the first-rate families and clans outside, the atmosphere in the entire academy was very tense. Many students had spontaneously gathered at Qingming Square. There were also some who chose to stay in their own places, silently waiting for things to develop. On a steep mountain peak, Luo Yanming and Luo Yanlin were facing each other. A huge, translucent chessboard hung between the two of them. Streaks of silver light outlined the chessboard. It was scattered all over the place. It looked like half of the chessboard was already down. Luo Yanming crossed his arms and frowned. He stared at the chessboard in front of him, seemingly in a difficult position. He had been in this position for 15 minutes. Luo Yanlin, on the other hand, looked much more relaxed. He was relaxed and patiently waiting. Time passed slowly, and beads of sweat gradually appeared on Luo Yanming's forehead. He raised his arm and tried to make a move, but at the critical moment, he hesitated and retreated. He wavered. Finally, after about 7 or 8 minutes, he smiled bitterly in dejection. "Fourth brother, I lost." Luo Yanlin waved his wrist, and the chessboard quickly shrank until it condensed into a thin, translucent piece of paper the size of a palm. That thing flew to Luo Yanming. He was stunned for a moment before receiving it with both hands. "Go back and study it." Luo Yanlin walked over and patted him on the shoulder. "Your comprehension is not bad. You should be able to solve it in half a month." Luo Yanming's lips moved, and he smiled helplessly. "I'm useless. I've disappointed you." Compared to ordinary people or even most Xian master cultivators, he could be considered as one of the best. But compared to the truly top figures, he was very clear that he was lacking. This talent was something that could not be caught. No matter what. Luo Yanlin laughed. "My level is higher than yours to begin with. If you win, where will your fourth brother's face go? Besides, talent alone is not enough to become a powerhouse. Yanming, you must remember this. Heaven rewards the diligent." Luo Yanming took a deep breath and nodded her head. "Fourth brother." As he spoke, he carefully put away the item in his hand. "Fourth brother, are you too to finish playing to play?" Aza's to zest to him. She was originally here to accompany him to watch the battle today, but when she heard that there was a commotion outside the academy, she left. Luo Yu, how's the situation outside?" Luo Xianxia saw that Luo Yanming's face was a little pale and knew that they must have lost the game. Fortunately, Luo Yanming had experienced this too many times since she was young and was already used to it. Hence, she recovered after a while. Luo Xianxia retracted her gaze and frowned slightly. The situation is not very good. Then, she briefly recounted what had happened outside. Actually, her knowledge was limited. After all, she was not at the scene. She could only find out a little. Anyway, both sides are in a stalemate now. I'm afraid it's hard to say what will happen next. Luo Xianxia was worried and confused. Why did these people have to find trouble with Chu Yu all of a sudden? It was his own luck that he was able to obtain this opportunity. What did it have to do with others? In any case, these people were influential figures in the first-rate clans. Wouldn't they feel ashamed if they were to force a young man like this? Luo Yanlin could not help but laugh after hearing this. "Don't worry. This farce will definitely be loud but small in the end. We'll turn big things into small things and small things into nothing. Nothing will happen to him." Luo Xianxia was stunned and quickly asked, "Fourth brother, how did you know?" "I saw that those people's formation was really big." Luo Yanlin saw her reaction and immediately became unhappy. Although he already knew that his sister liked that brat, seeing her so worried as an elder brother, he more or less had some thoughts in his heart. He snorted lightly and walked to the stone bench at the side to sit down. He poured himself a cup of tea and said, "That kid's life is very tough. Who can do anything to him?" In these few months in the academy, Chuyu had encountered quite a lot of trouble, right? There were a few times when his life was on the line and he was surrounded by danger. In the end, wasn't he still alive and well? And he was constantly getting stronger at a terrifying speed. If it was anyone else, they would have died long ago. But this kid was always able to survive. He could see now that he could not use normal eyes to look at Chuyu. Besides, now that Elder Bo Yen and Rong Xiu are speaking up for him, it's obvious that they want to support him. With Lingxiao College and Yuntian Tower as his backing, those people won't dare to act recklessly. Whether it was Lingxiao College or Yuntian Tower, they were not to be trifled with. Not to mention that they had joined forces and stood on the same side now. As long as those people were not crazy, they would not completely offend these two forces for Chuyu. When Luo Shishi heard this, she also felt that it made sense. Fourth brother is right. Those people only came because they missed the primordial north and were jealous of Chuyu's situation. If you ask me, the person who instigated this matter behind the scenes has ill intentions, and those who followed the crowd are even more stupid. Offending Lingxiao College and Yuntian Tower because of such a trivial matter without any evidence was really not worth it. They thought that by joining forces, they could share the blame equally, but they did not know that revenge was a dish best served cold. After knowing Rong Xiu for so long, he had never seen Rong Xiu stand up for someone like this. He would definitely remember today's grudge. By the way, Rong Xiu said that he was related to Chuyu? He had always been curious about this point. Now that Rong Xiu had admitted it, he naturally had to study it carefully. Luo Shishi's expression was a little strange. He said, "immediate family," but he didn't say anything else. Luo Yanlin touched his chin and pondered for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was a little erratic. "I've never heard that Rong Xiu's mother gave birth to a younger brother for him. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network." Chapter 1446. It's time. Elder Bo Yen stood on top of the Eastern Emperor Bell Tower and put away the booklet in his hand. He took a deep breath and turned to walk down. At this moment, a person walked over. "Bo Yen." The person who came was in a hurry and frowned. It was Elder Hua Feng. Elder Bo Yen hadn't seen him for the past 2 days, so he was a little surprised to see him now. "Hua Feng? Why you here?" Elder Hua Feng walked forward and stared at Elder Bo Yen. His heart was beating much faster than usual. "I have something to tell you." Elder Bo Yen was stunned. But the Eastern Emperor Bell had already rung, which meant that the people outside had gathered in Fang State City. The agreed time had arrived. As the current ruler of Lingxiao College, he should go out. What did he have to say now? "It's just a few words. It won't take much time, but it's very important." Elder Hua Feng was very persistent. Elder Bo Yen rarely saw such an expression on his face, so he nodded. "Speak." Elder Hua Feng frowned even more as he looked around. Elder Bo Yen smiled. "Only the few of us can come up to this place. No one else is here. If you have anything to say, you can say it boldly." As he spoke, he had some doubts in his heart. Why was Hua Feng so cautious? But soon he knew the answer. Elder Hua Feng took a step forward and said word by word, "Bo Yen, do you still remember that I told you before that we were trapped by a huge and complicated Xian formation in the northern region of the primordial wasteland and finally escaped?" Elder Bo Yen nodded. "At that time, you seem to have said that it was all thanks to Chuyu?" "Yes." Elder Hua Feng's throat was dry. "At that time, he had given me a broken Xian formation. After I repaired that Xian formation, I opened the Xian formation that trapped us. After returning, I have been studying that Xian formation. In the end, that Xian formation was related to the first Dean." Elder Bo Yan's originally calm eyes were suddenly set off by stormy waves. "What?" "At first, I only suspected it. I didn't dare to be sure. Plus, you've been very busy recently, so I didn't tell you. I went to take out the profound diagram left behind by that person back then and carefully observed and compared it. Elder Hua Feng paused for a moment before spitting out the following words with difficulty. It's exactly the same. Elder Bo Yen felt his mind go blank. Which scroll are you reading? Elder Hua Feng was silent for a while. Heaven Scroll. Although the first principal did not accept any disciples, he had left behind many precious items. Among them, the Xian formation diagrams were divided into 3 scrolls: Heaven, Earth, and Human. Students in the academy could usually read the Human Scroll for free. Some of the more talented ones could even read the Earth Scroll if they performed well. The Heaven Scroll was of the highest level and was also the most confidential. Even among the elders of the academy, there were only a few people who had the qualifications to observe. The Heaven Scroll has always been sealed within the academy. It is impossible for outsiders to see it. Then how did Chu Yu know? Elder Bo Yen muttered in shock. Elder Hua Feng smiled bitterly. He said that he saw it by chance in a deserted cave. At first, he did not pay much attention to this statement. However, when he confirmed that the Xian formation was recorded in the Heaven Scroll, the suspicion in his heart instantly exploded. Because the Xian formations in the Heaven Scroll definitely could not be outside. It was even more impossible for it to be carved in some random cave. Where did Chu Yu find out about this Xian formation? The reason was a mystery. His explanation at that time was obviously a lie. If it wasn't because this matter was too shocking, he wouldn't have chosen to look for Elder Bo Yen at this time. Elder Bo Yen rubbed his forehead. Could it be that Rong Xiu taught him? Rong Xiu had gone to see the Heaven Scroll before. There are hundreds of Xian formations recorded in the Heaven Scroll. When Rong Xiu went in, he only saw 2 or 3 at most, right? How could it be so coincidental that he bumped into this one? Elder Hua Feng let out a long sigh. How could he not think of such a possibility? However, this kind of speculation was simply too illusory. Chu Yu obviously knew that the Xian formation was extraordinary. Otherwise, why would he try to get other explanations? If Elder Hua Feng hadn't happened to see it, this matter would never have been discovered. The two of them looked at each other and fell into deep thought. Chu Yu obviously had a big secret on him. Dang dang dang. A series of hurried footsteps could be heard. An elder came over to urge him. Bo Yen, it's time. We should go out. They waited below for a long time but didn't see Elder Bo Yen coming down, so they could only come up and ask. He turned his gaze and saw Elder Hua Feng. Hua Feng, you're here too? Elder Bo Yen nodded, and his expression had returned to normal. I'm coming. As he spoke, he lifted his foot and walked down. When he brushed past Elder Hua Feng, the two of them looked at each other without batting an eyelid. Hua Feng, you should follow as well. Elder Hua Feng suppressed the emotions in his heart. Even if there was really something, it was too late to investigate now. Let's take it one step at a time. If it really didn't work out, he would wait until the matter outside was resolved and come back to ask Chu Yu properly. And Rong Xiu. Fangzhou City. In the center of the city, there was a huge circular square. This square was paved with black and white jade stones, and there was a huge teleportation array in the middle. On the teleportation array, there was a totem of Lingxiao College engraved on it. Without a doubt, this was the totem of Lingxiao College. And this teleportation array was also used by Lingxiao College's students and elders. It was just that in normal times, the people of the Spirit Firmament Academy rarely used this teleportation array. After a long time, it gradually became deserted. As a result, very few people came to this square. But today, the huge square was bustling with noise and excitement. Lingxiao College had already divided the square into different areas according to the invitations that were sent out. The major clans and families each occupied a place, and in the end, they formed a circle. Of course, because they were worried about causing misunderstandings, not many people came. The smallest number was 3 to 5, and the largest number was about 10 people. But there were nearly 20 families that arrived today, so overall, there were quite a number of people. Under the guidance of the Lingxiao College's elders and students, everyone took their seats. Elder when she looked at the empty main seat, and a hint of hesitation and worry flashed across his eyes. It was already time. Why hadn't Bo Yen and the others arrived yet? Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air came from behind. At the same time, a deep laughter spread throughout the entire square. Ah, it's so lively here. Everyone raised their heads and looked over. When they saw who it was, they were all shocked. Why is the Yuntian Tower's patriarch, Bailey Jun, here? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1447. Everyone in the Divine Ruins world knew that Bailey Jun had been in seclusion for a few years and had not made any moves. They did not expect him to suddenly appear. Has he come out of seclusion? But I don't think I invited him today, right? After all, the holy son of Yuntian Tower, Rong Xiu, was currently in Lingxiao College. Moreover, he had already expressed that he was on the same side as Lingxiao College. Why is Bailey Jun here at this time? Could it be that he's also speaking up for Lingxiao College? Everyone had different thoughts, but they did not show it on their faces. They all stood up and bowed. Putting everything else aside, Bailey Jun's status was indeed very high. Although he no longer had any real power in his hands, he still had to give him face. After all, he was the patriarch of Yuntian Tower. Elder Wensi also led his people forward to welcome him with an eager smile on his face. So it's Patriarch Bailey. Why are you here? We're sorry for not coming out to welcome you. Bailey Chun gracefully landed on the ground, and there was not even the slightest bit of energy fluctuation around him. Everyone was shocked when they saw this. From the looks of it, he had clearly broken through again. Sensing the change in the gazes of the people around him, Bailey Jun's originally depressed mood immediately improved. He knew very well that after he had been in seclusion for a few years, all his power had been transferred to Rong Xiu's hands. In everyone's eyes, he was just an empty shell of a patriarch, and there was nothing to be afraid of. However, it was a good thing that his strength had increased. These people naturally had to look up to him. Even if they were thinking nonsense in their hearts, they had to be respectful to him on the surface. At any time, having a strong fist was more useful than anything else. Elder Wensi, you don't have to be so polite. This old man came uninvited today only because he was on a whim. You guys can go ahead and do whatever you need to do. You don't have to worry about me. Bailey Jun stroked his beard and smiled. Elder Wensi cursed in his heart. Easy for him to say. Originally, everyone's seats were already arranged. Now that Bailey Jun had suddenly arrived, they had to find another seat for him. Moreover, he was of high status, so it was impossible for him to casually pull out a stool for him to sit on. After thinking about it, Elder Wensi could only stretch out his long arm. Then, please take a seat. Lingxiao College had prepared slightly more seats because some of them were reserved for the elders of the college. But now, there was only one empty spot in the middle. Thinking of this, he glanced at the young man behind Bailey Jun. The young man looked to be about 27 or 28 years old. He was thin and not very tall. He wore a blue and white embroidered robe with a white jade belt around his waist. He had an ordinary face with sharp edges. It doesn't look like anything special. However, out of caution, Elder Wensi still asked a question. May I know who this is? This is Little Lu. He came with me on this trip. You don't need to care about him, he can just stand behind this old man. Bailey Jun waved his hand as if he didn't care. Elder Wensi heaved a sigh of relief. It seems that he's just a follower and not an important person. You're welcome. We have spare chairs here. It's just a small matter to add one for this person. As he spoke, Elder Wensi gave his subordinate a look. There weren't many important seats, but there were many ordinary chairs. The other families all had seats, so how could they let this young man stand alone? The chair was quickly moved over and added to the left side of Bailey Jun. Bailey Jun laughed, and the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes deepened. Little Lu, why aren't you thanking Elder Wensi? The young man immediately responded and thanked him respectfully. Thank you, Elder Wensi. Strange, I just added a chair for this young man. Why do I feel that Bailey Jun's mood and attitude are obviously better? Elder Wensi muttered in his heart. Maybe it's because he feels that he's valued? After all, this young man is my man. Besides, there are so many people in Yuntian Tower, but Bailey June brought this young man here. It's obvious that he likes him. It's always right to take care of him. Elder Wensi suppressed the doubts in his heart and smiled widely. Patriarch Bailey, please take a seat. Bo Yen and the others should be out soon, and Rong Xiu, crack. A sound suddenly came from the side. Everyone looked up in unison. Not far away, the huge enchantment outside the Spirit Firmament Academy had a crack. A few figures flew out from it. It was Elder Bo Yen and the others. Elder Wensi and the others heaved a sigh of relief. They're finally here. The atmosphere in the hall also became strange. Those who had not had the time to sit down greeted Elder Bo Yen and the others. At this moment, everyone was very polite. Elder Bo Yen also had a smile on his face. No matter what, he had to put on a show. Elder Wensi came over to remind him. Patriarch Bailey is here too. What? Elder Bo Yen was shocked. He looked in the direction he pointed and saw Bailey June. Isn't he in seclusion? Why did he come out and even come here? Elder Bo Yan's mind raced, but the smile on his face deepened. Ha! Patriarch Bailey, what a distinguished guest. Why are you free today? I don't know if Rong Xiu knows. Why didn't he mention it? Bailey June cupped his hands and smiled. This old man came suddenly. Elder Bo Yen won't blame me, right? Why would I? Your presence brings light to Fangzhou City. Ha! Please take a seat. The two of them exchanged a few more pleasantries. On the square, it was a scene of joy and harmony. Finally, a somewhat abrupt voice sounded, breaking this thin layer of illusion. Elder Bo Yen, we're all here. Why hasn't Chu Yu appeared yet? Could it be that so many of us are here, but we still can't get him to come? Digression, it doesn't seem good to let everyone wait alone. It got dark early yesterday. So I'll update 4 times today and 6 times tomorrow. I'll try to update at noon together. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1448. There was a moment of silence. Elder Bo Yan's expression did not change as he smiled faintly. It's a misunderstanding. Today's situation was initiated by Chu Yu to give everyone an explanation. How could he not come? It's probably because of some matters in the academy that delayed him. When she go and rush him? Elder when she responded and turned around to head towards the academy. Everyone looked at each other in surprise. This was initiated by Chu Yu? They had always thought that it was Lingxiao College's idea. On one hand, it was to help Chu Yu clear his name. On the other hand, it was to solve this series of troublesome matters. Unexpectedly, it was wasn't that Chu Yu only 17 years old? How could he be so daring? Did he know what kind of people he had invited today? It seems that this student of your academy is really a newborn calf that is not afraid of tigers. The man who choked laughed, but he was still a little sarcastic. Elder Bo Yen was calm and composed. The innocent knows that they are innocent. What's there to worry about? The other party's laughter instantly became more awkward. Wasn't this a disguised way of clarifying Chu Yu's innocence and pointing at them to slander him? Furthermore, although that child is young, he is a responsible person. After hearing about the previous incident, he felt that it was because he had implicated the academy. No matter what, he had to stand up and explain the misunderstanding to everyone. Look, his body has not recovered yet, and he dragged his sick body to beg me. He said that he had to take responsibility for everything. Elder Bo Yen shook his head and sighed, his tone pitiful. I tried to persuade him, but he did not listen. He is really stubborn. This time, no one spoke casually. What did he say? That these aristocratic families had joined forces to coerce a child? Although it was the truth, it did not sound good to say it out loud. It seems that Elder Bo Yen really dotes on that Chu Yu. Bailey June suddenly said. Elder Bo Yen raised his eyes slightly as a faint smile appeared on his aged face. Clan leader Bailey, Chu Yu is a student of our academy. Isn't it our duty to protect him? Even if it was not Chu Yu, if it was any other student in the academy, our position would be the same. Although this answer was polite, there was nothing to nitpick about. Moreover, Lingxiao College had always been protective of its students and treated them well. However, when Bailey Jun heard this, he felt even more uncomfortable. The same for all the other students? Then how were they going to remove Jiang Jiwon's name from the list and kick her out of the academy, making her lose face? If Lingxiao College had not been so ruthless, she would not have had to change her appearance just to come here. Bailey Jun felt sorry for Jiang Jiwon. However, he was still clear-headed and didn't question Jiang Jiwon about her expulsion. If something was really involved and the matter was blown out of proportion, wouldn't it be even harder to clean up? Let's talk about this in private. Bailey Jun did not ask any more questions. How dare the Yuntian Tower show up again? On the other side, Liang Xiaoxiao, who was sitting in her seat, could not help but curse softly. They are really shameless. Liang Ye glanced at her and his face darkened. Bailey Jun is the head of the family. Why wouldn't he dare to come? If it were someone else, he might have gone up and argued with them. However, it was Bailey Jun. Don't you know how important Jiang Jiwon is to him? Maybe the Yuntian Tower was willing to help Jiang Jiwon this time because of his instructions. She had thought it was strange before, but now that she saw Bailey Jun, all her doubts were resolved. Bailey Jun treated Jiang Jiwon like his own granddaughter and had always doted on her. This was something that many people knew. It was also because of this that Liang Xiaoxiao was willing to interact with Jiang Jiwon and get closer to her after entering the academy. Otherwise, with her status as the legitimate daughter of the Liang family, why would she be willing to get close to Jiang Jiwon? However, she did not expect Jiang Jiwon to be so disappointing. Not only was she expelled from Lingxiao College, but she was also implicated in her third brother's death. Liang Xiaoxiao now hated her to the core. I really don't know if the head of the Bailey family still values that bitch after this series of events. Liang Ye did not comment. That's enough. Keep it down. There were so many people here. Some things were not good to say after all. If someone heard it, it would be troublesome. Liang Xiaoxiao could only grit her teeth and endure. When Chuyu came out, she must get to the bottom of it. Outside Pengmin Mountain, Elder Wan Zheng and Rong Xiu were waiting for Chu Luiyue to come out. They had been waiting since early this morning. The Donghuang bell had been rung, but there was still no movement in the tower. Logically speaking, even if you were inside, you should be the one who heard the bell. Elder Wan Zheng glanced at the sky. It has been a while. Why is Chuyu still not out? Could it be that something has delayed him? He was a little uneasy. Although Chuyu was a naughty child, he was usually very sensible when it came to important matters. Why was he late for no reason now? Rong Xiu at the side narrowed his eyes. A faint light flashed across his eyes. Wan Zheng, where is Chuyu? Elder when she hurried over. Seeing the two people waiting, his heart was hanging in the air. He's still inside? Elder Wan Zheng nodded. I don't know why. There has been no movement. But everyone outside is already here. Elder when she wiped the sweat on his forehead. If it was someone else, it would be fine. But those people were not to be trifled with. How could they keep waiting? Moreover, Bo Yen had gone out. Chu Yu was a junior student and the focus of everyone's debate. How could he not appear? If he went too late, those people might use this as an excuse. Didn't you ask Elder Meng? Elder Meng had been guarding inside. He should know Chu Yu's current situation the best. Elder Wan Zheng frowned. Not yet. Then, Elder when she wanted to go forward. He could not delay any longer. Elder Meng has always been a strategist. He should know the importance of today's matter. Until now, he has not let Chu Yu out. He must have his own reasons. Rong Xiu at the side suddenly said. His voice was low and sweet. It was as calm as usual. Elder Wen Shi's footsteps paused. For a moment he was in a dilemma. Rong Xiu's words were not without reason. If there really was something, it was useless to rush him. But, could it be that they really had to wait like this? It won't be long before those people outside start making a ruckus, right? The waiting time was particularly unbearable. Finally, when Elder Wen Shi finally could not hold back and wanted to rush forward, the enchantment outside Pengmin Mountains suddenly rippled. A slender and tall figure walked out from the gate of the tower. It was Chu Luiyue. "He's out." Elder Wan Zheng was very happy. He quickly waved at Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue looked up and saw these people. She quickly rushed over. Swish. The next moment her figure was like lightning. She instantly appeared in front of them. Elder Wan Shi heaved a sigh of relief. "Chu Yu, you finally came out. If you didn't come out, this old man would have barged in." Chu Luiyue blinked and smiled. "Sorry, I took a little more time to break through. I didn't take too long, right? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network." Chapter 1449. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd fell silent for a moment. Elder Wensi looked at Chu Luiyue in shock and found that her aura was much stronger than before. "You broke through?" He murmured in disbelief. Didn't this kid say that she was in poor health a few days ago? At that time, Elder Meng was also very worried, which made him worry for a few days. But in the blink of an eye, not only did her injuries heal, but she also broke through? Because Chu Luiyue had the Yuan device left by Dugu Mabao to hide her aura, even if she was standing in front of them, Elder Wensi and the others couldn't sense her current realm. Chu Luiyue said with some embarrassment, "I just broke through to the middle stage of rank 9. Actually, she could continue to break through. Inside the tower, she seemed to have once again entered that mysterious state. The surrounding heaven and earth force flowed into her body and merged into her bones and blood at an extraordinary speed. The whole process was natural and smooth. Chu Luiyue's mind was firm, and no accidents happened this time. She naturally broke through to the middle stage of rank 9. After that, her body's devouring of the origin power didn't stop there. Chu Luiyue knew very well that if she continued to cultivate like that, she could basically break through to the peak of rank 9 smoothly. On one hand, she had the Tianjing Yuan Meridian now and was very talented. On the other hand, she had the memories and experience in this area. She could break through directly without the guidance of others. However, after thinking for a moment, she still chose to stop. Every cultivator had the heart to become stronger, and Chu Luiyue was no exception. However, she had always been very cautious in this aspect. Recently, she had been feeling that her breakthrough speed was a little too fast. Even if it was mainly because she had encountered many unexpected opportunities in the middle, she was still very cautious. The corner of Elder Wensi's mouth twitched. "Do you think that's the right word to say?" However, looking at Chu Luiyue's sincere face, he couldn't say anything to refute. This kid is a freak. Didn't he already know about it from the day he entered the school? On the other hand, Elder Wan Zheng quickly accepted this fact. As expected of my disciple. Very outstanding. Elder Wensi faintly glanced at him. Could the filter not be so thick? Even if something strange happened to your disciple, I'm afraid you'd think it was normal. Rong Xiao was the calmest. For the past few days, she had stayed in Pengmin Mountain, and he knew that she wanted to try to break through again. This was not a difficult task for her to begin with. However, what surprised him was that she actually did not break through to the peak of the 9th stage, and even, probably because there's not enough time, Rong Xiao's eyebrows twitched. Forget it. Let's not talk about this for now. It's getting late. Those people are already waiting outside. Let's hurry over. Elder Wensi reacted and hurriedly urged. Chu Luiyue gently nodded as the corners of his lips curled up. All right. Her eyes were as bright as the stars, and her expression was relaxed as if she did not realize what kind of trouble was waiting for her. Elder Wensi sighed in his heart. No matter what, I must protect this kid. Chu Yu. Just as the few of them were rushing out of the school, a familiar voice was heard. Chu Luiyue stopped in his tracks and turned to look. A few people were rushing over from the opposite mountain. Luo Shishir, Luo Yanming, and Zhuosheng were all familiar faces. Most importantly, there was a face that he had not seen for a long time beside them. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat, and the corners of his lips curled up. Hongyu, why are you here? Although she came out a few days ago, She went directly to the Donghuang bell tower. After discussing things with Elder Bo Yen and the others, she went straight back to Pingmin Mountain. No one told her that Mu Hongyu had come to the school. Now that she suddenly saw her, she was naturally very surprised. Mu Hongyu's almond-shaped eyes were also bright, and she quickly rushed forward. She wanted to give Chu Luiwei a big hug, but when she was in front of him, she suddenly remembered that Chu Luiwei was now using another identity, so she quickly stopped in her tracks. However, the joyful look on his face was clearly seen by the surrounding crowd. "I've been here for a few days. But you've been staying at Pingmin Mountain all this time, so we haven't seen each other," Mu Hongyu said excitedly as she looked up and down at Chu Luiwei. "Have you been well in the past few months in the school?" She had heard about those things, so she could not help but worry. Chu Luiwei could not help but gently knock her forehead. "Do I look like something's wrong?" Everyone could see that the two of them were indeed very close. Luo Shirshir pursed her lips and her heart ached. She had never seen Chu Yu treat any woman so casually and freely. Mu Hongyu was really different? This kind of Chu Yu was somewhat different from the polite Chu Yu she knew. Luo Yenming glanced at her sister out of the corner of her eye, sighed in her heart, but also breathed a sigh of relief. The onlookers saw more clearly. Chu Yu obviously did not like Luo Shirshir, and only treated her as a friend. Now, it was best to let her give up before she said anything. Mu Hongyu saw that Chu Luiwei could still joke, and her heart calmed down a lot. "I knew you would be able to do it." Chu Luiwei looked at her and suddenly asked in surprise, "You broke through to the 9th level?" "Yes. Just before I came, I broke through at Qi at home." Mu Hongyu stuck out her tongue. "It was Master and the others who sent me here." Chu Luiwei immediately understood. It seemed that Diwu Zhangzi and the others helped. At the same time of surprise, Chu Luiwei could not help but secretly sigh. Mu Hongyu's physique and talent were indeed enviable. She relied on various opportunities to break through to the peak of the 9th level in such a short time. However, Mu Hongyu had only cultivated with Diwu Zhangzi and the others in the Red Moon Desert for a few months, and she had also successfully broken through to the 9th level. If this spread out, countless people would be envious. "Chu Yu Hongyu, if you want to catch up, why don't you wait first?" Elder Wensi could not help but interject. This time, Chu Luiwei nodded with a smile. Although she was not afraid of being late, she did not want to put Elder Wensi in a difficult position. "You're right. Hongyu, I'll go out first. Wait for me at the academy." Mu Hongyu suddenly took a step forward. "Chu Yu, I want to go with you." She vaguely knew what was going on outside, and she was very worried. At this time, she did not want Lu Yu to face it alone. Even if he just stood next to her, it would be good. Elder Wensi frowned. "This is not okay." Chu Luiwei nodded gently and agreed to Mu Hongyu's request. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from love. Chapter 1450. Chu Luiwei's answer was unexpected. Everyone present was stunned for a moment, almost thinking that they had heard wrongly. That kind of occasion, it was obvious what kind of swords and knives would be. Why did he have to bring someone? Mu Hongyu was very happy and nodded repeatedly. No matter what, she must not watch Lu Yu be bullied. Seeing that Chu Luiwei seemed to be determined, Elder Wensi thought for a moment and did not object. It was just one more student, it did not matter. "It's fine if you want to go, but Hongyu, don't talk nonsense when you get there, understand?" Mu Hongyu covered her mouth and nodded repeatedly. "Then let's go." As soon as Elder Wensi finished speaking, he heard Luo Shirshir's voice from behind. "Master, I'll go too." "Shirshir." Luo Yenming and Zhuosheng both looked at her in surprise. Fourth brother had already told them that the Luo family was not invited this time and that they should try not to get involved in this matter in the academy. Now Luo Shirshir wanted to go too? Wasn't this nonsense? But Luo Shirshir insisted. She looked at Elder Wensi pleadingly. "Master, I promise that I will be honest when I go. I won't say a word." Elder Wensi had a headache. Why did all of them want to go? If they continued to argue like this, there would not be enough time. He made up his mind. "Let's go together." In Fangzhou City, on the wide and flat square, there was silence. Everyone was sitting in a circle. At first, they could still exchange a few words with each other, but as time passed, the atmosphere gradually became cold and stagnant. From time to time, people would look in the direction of Lingxiao College. Furthermore, there were some people that had already revealed impatient expressions. If it weren't for Elder Bo Yen and the others holding the fort, they wouldn't have been able to wait any longer. I didn't expect this Chu Yu to be so arrogant. A voice sounded in the crowd. It was neither loud nor soft, with a hint of sarcasm. To be the only person in the northern region of the primeval wilderness who has obtained an opportunity is naturally extraordinary. Someone laughed softly, but the laughter was harsh. Elder Bo Yen turned a deaf ear. Wasn't it just a few words? What was there to care about? As long as these people didn't really fight, everything was negotiable. Jean D, who was sitting at the side, stroked his stubble and finally couldn't help but sneer. I heard that Chu Yu is only a rank 9 warrior now, and his extravagance is already so grand. If he broke through to the god realm in the future, wouldn't he be even more powerful? At that time, I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to even see him. Some people's faces turned ugly. He was merely a junior, yet he had made so many of them wait here and had yet to show himself. He was truly arrogant. Senior Golden Flute, you're wrong. A clear voice that was like a clear spring in the mountains flowed down and broke this oppressive and stiff atmosphere. Hearing this, everyone immediately looked in the direction of Lingxiao College. Several figures were flying out one after another. The person who spoke was precisely Chu Yu. Their speed was very fast and they soon arrived at the square. Countless pairs of eyes swept over the newcomers, and then paused on Rong Xiu and Chu Luiwei for a moment. The meaning was unclear. Only Elder Bo Yen and the others were a little shocked when they saw Mu Hongyu and the others behind them. But in front of so many people, it wasn't too good to ask in detail. But it was just a few students, and it didn't affect the overall situation. Chu Luiwei was still smiling and said, "Compared to all of you, Chu Yu's status really doesn't dare to be presumptuous. It's just that I was delayed by some matters earlier, so I'm late. Chu Yu is here first, and I apologize to all of you." With that, she really bent down slightly and bowed to them, and then looked at Jean D with a smile. "What you said just now, isn't it a little underestimating the status of all of you here?" Was she saying that he deliberately looked down on everyone present? Jean D's face changed. I know that all of you came from afar this time because of some misunderstandings, and you want to find me for an explanation. Chu Luiwei changed the topic and had already glossed over the previous topic. Jean D's chest was stuffy, and half of his breath was blocked in his windpipe. It was so uncomfortable that he wanted to die. This Chu Yu, extremely cunning and treacherous. He snorted coldly. Escape? Could he escape? Today, he must peel off a layer of skin from Chu Yu. The others had already been distracted by Chu Luiwei's words. That's right. Since you're going straight to the point, then let's not talk about those nonsense. Chu Yu, about some of the recent rumors related to you, do you have anything to say? On the other side, a black-robed elder stroked his beard and asked in a deep voice. They had to give people a chance to explain, otherwise, it would seem that they were overbearing and unreasonable. Chu Luiwei nodded slightly. I will give all of you a clear and reasonable explanation. Chu Yu, come here. Elder Bo Yen suddenly spoke, waved at Chu Luiwei, and pointed to the seat beside him. Although today's interrogation was directed at Chu Yu, he did not want Chu Yu to look like a criminal and be bullied and humiliated by these people. Chu Luiwei's heart warmed slightly. The seat beside Elder Bo Yen was not a seat that ordinary people could sit on. This represented Elder Bo Yen and the entire Lingxiao College's support for her. She hesitated for a moment, then walked over. On the other side, Bailey Jun had already looked at Rong Xiu. His face darkened slightly. Holy Sun, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Have you even forgotten how to address me? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1451. Rong Xiu chuckled. His thin, scarlet lips curled into a faint smile, but his deep, phoenix-like eyes were still cold. "Greetings, Patriarch." He nodded slightly. Although he was saluting, his imposing manner did not diminish at all. Instead, it made him look even more elegant and noble. In front of Bailey June, he did not give in at all. Bailey June's heart sank. After not seeing him for a few years, Rong Xiu seemed to be even more difficult to provoke than before. He still remembered how young Rong Xiu was when he chose to go into seclusion. In the blink of an eye, that young man had been reborn and grown into a giant. He had underestimated Rong Xiu. "I wonder when Patriarch came out of seclusion. I didn't receive any news." Rong Xiu chuckled. "If I knew, I would have come out to welcome you personally." Bailey June suppressed the waves in his heart. "It happened 2 days ago. I wanted to send you a message, but then I heard about what happened here, so I decided to come in person. I thought that I would have to meet you anyway, so I didn't bother them." "I see. Patriarch, you seem to have made a breakthrough this time. I really have to congratulate you." This sentence finally made Bailey June's expression relax a little. He snorted and the corners of his mouth twitched. "It's not as fast as the Saint's rapid progress in the past few years." This was not a polite remark. After he came out of seclusion, he specifically asked Yu Jing and the others some questions. Among them was Rong Xiu's current strength. But in fact, Yu Jing and the others did not know much about this. Because in the past few years, Rong Xiu did not spend much time in Yuntian Tower. And every time he came back, he came and went in a hurry. How did they know? It was nothing more than a rough guess. Even so, it was not difficult to guess Rong Xiu's basic strength. Bailey June was shocked. Although he was a little unhappy, he could only accept it. Rong Xiu was a once-in-a-thousand-years genius of the Yuntian Tower, so it was normal for him to have such a cultivation speed. It was impossible for others to be envious, including him. Rong Xiu's gaze swept over the young man beside him, but it was as cold as a knife. Jiang Jiwan's heart tightened. Without raising her head, she could feel Rong Xiu's gaze on her, as if he could see right through her. She lowered her head even more guiltily. Her face was disguised, and so was her figure. Even her aura was concealed by Bailey June. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any flaws. "Who is this? Why haven't I seen you before?" Rong Xiu asked slowly. Bailey June furrowed his brows. "Lil Lu, recently promoted from the bottom. I saw that he had a good aptitude, so I took him with me. There are so many people in the Yuntian Tower, the Holy Sun might not know every one of them, right?" Rong Xiu suddenly laughed. "You're right. To be able to gain your favor, he must not be an ordinary person." Eyes are bad. I didn't notice such a person before. He remembered the entire Yuntian Tower, from top to bottom, as long as he had seen it before. Even if it was a lowly servant. And this person, Rong Xiu sneered and retracted his gaze. Without that oppressive gaze, Jiang Ziyuan breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. A wave of coldness hit her, and only then did she realize that her back was already drenched in cold sweat. She secretly gritted her teeth. Rong Xiu only looked at her twice. How could she be so useless? "I hope he doesn't notice anything." Jiang Jiwan wanted to take the opportunity to look at the face that she had been dreaming of. After all, they had not seen each other for a long time. However, she felt very guilty after hearing Rong Xiu's words, so she naturally didn't dare to move. She looked down and stood at the side, not daring to say a single word. Bailey June put on a fake smile. The Holy Sun is busy. Naturally, he has no time to care about these things. There was an undercurrent between the two. Many people around them looked over with complicated expressions on their faces. Their thoughts were running wild. It seems like the two most powerful people in the Yuntian Tower don't have a good relationship? Apparently, when Rong Xiu was first found in the Yuntian Tower, this Bailey clan leader was very opposed to him being added to the clan's genealogy. He even suggested twice that Rong Xiu be given the harshest punishment. That kind of punishment was unbearable for cultivators with decent strength, let alone Rong Xiu, who was only a child at that time. If Rong Xiu did not take the initiative to summon the infinite divine dial and test his shocking talent, he would have died there. It was also because of this that Rong Xiu and Bailey Jun's relationship had never been good. Especially now that Rong Xiu had so much power in his hands, he could order the entire Yuntian with just one word. Bailey Jun no longer had any real power in his hands. He was only left with the empty title of clan leader. Could the two of them see eye to eye? Please rest first. I will go first. Rong Xiu seemed to have turned a deaf ear to Bailey Jun's sarcasm. After politely bowing, he turned around and left. From the beginning to the end, he had his own noble and arrogant aura, but no one could find fault with him. Seeing the tall and slender figure leave, Bailey Jun felt stifled in his heart. Back then, they had planned to directly dispose of Rong Xiu. But because he had shown great talent, after much debate, they chose to keep him. At that time, he actually did not take Rong Xiu seriously. Even if his mother was a direct descendant of the Yuntian Tower, his father was of humble birth. With such a background, he was destined to never be able to raise his head in the Yuntian Tower. But later, the development of the situation gradually got out of control. It was not until Rong Xiu killed his way out and ascended to the position of the son of saint that he realized that he had completely underestimated this young man. But at that time, everything was too late. Therefore, he could only accept the fact that Rong Xiu had become the son of saint. But he still misjudged Rong Xiu's ambition and ability. Until this time, when he came out of seclusion, he realized that he had never seen Rong Xiu clearly. Everything in the past was just Rong Xiu's little tricks. If he had known, he would have killed him back then. But what was the use of regretting it now? Bailey Jun gritted his teeth, his face grim. On the other side, Rong Xiu did not seem to be affected at all, and sat down directly beside Chu Luiyue. Hey, Rong Xiu, your seat is over here. Elder Bo Yen glanced to the side and pointed to the other side of him as a reminder. Rong Xiu leaned back and smiled faintly. It's the same no matter where I sit. Elder Bo Yan's mind turned quickly, and he did not insist. Rong Xiu really put in a lot of effort for Chu Yu's sake. Chu Luiyue also turned her head. The two of them looked at each other. She blinked slightly. Originally, she and Rong Xiu were supposed to sit on either side of Elder Bo Yen, but now he and Elder Bo Yen were sitting on both sides of her. Unknowingly, she was surrounded in the middle like stars surrounding the moon. Was he here to support her? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1452. The surroundings fell silent for a moment. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes, retracted her gaze, and looked at the crowd. Sorry for the long wait. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Chu Yu will be honest and tell you everything I know. Her magnanimity stunned the crowd for a moment. She was quite direct. Many people exchanged glances in private. There were so many questions. Which one should they ask first? Who would ask? Chu Luiyue was still smiling, seemingly very patient. She did not intend to waste time with these people. The hesitation at this moment was only because they had their own plans. But in reality, their targeting and suspicion would not reduce because of this. Chu Yu, I have something to ask you. The first to step forward was actually Liang Xiaoxiao. Liang Ye was also shocked and hurriedly gave Liang Xiaoxiao a look. However, Liang Xiaoxiao was determined to speak at this time, and no one could stop her. Chu Luiyue nodded slightly. Senior Sister Liang, please ask. Liang Xiaoxiao stared at Chu Luiyue, as if she wanted to dissect her from the inside out. Let me ask you, how did my third brother die in the primeval north region? Xiaoxiao. Liang Ye could not help but call out to her. This question could be asked in private. Why did she have to ask in public? The people from Lingxiao College were all present. Wasn't she deliberately embarrassing them? Everyone knew that Lingxiao College had always been neutral about this kind of thing. They would never reveal a word in this regard. If the people from Lingxiao College misunderstood, Chu Luiyue shrugged and revealed a helpless expression. Sorry, Senior Sister Liang. You should know the rules of the college. Of course I know. Liang Xiaoxiao did not show any disappointment. Instead, she took half a step forward and continued to ask. I received news that my third brother had asked for help at that time. The elders originally wanted to help, but you stopped them. Is this true or false? As soon as he said this, everyone was stunned for a moment. Then they all looked at Chu Liyue. This was true. Chu Yu had an undeniable responsibility for Liang Shaokong's death. Even Liang Ye had a doubtful look on his face. Where did Xiao Xiao hear it from? Why didn't he know about it? But since she asked this question, then it might not be impossible. Jiang Jiwan, who was standing behind Bailey June, still had her head down, but she was very focused and heard every word clearly. She pursed her lips. Her hand in her sleeve pinched a corner of her shirt, unconsciously twisting it. I did, Liang Xiaoxiao still asked. It seemed like his father's secret message wasn't completely useless after all. She knew that Liang Xiaoxiao and Liang Shaokong's relationship was very good. Moreover, she was also an impulsive person. As long as she wanted to sow discord, she could do anything. Now, the cannon fire was finally aimed at Chu Yu. Chu Liyue smiled. His expression was calm and there wasn't the slightest ripple in his eyes. Senior Sister Liang, I'm just an ordinary student in the academy. What right do I have to command the elders? Aren't you overestimating me? Besides, I don't know your third brother. Why should I do this? Ordinary student? Liang Xiaoxiao sneered in disdain, as if she had heard a joke. You actually have the nerve to say that you're an ordinary student? After entering the northern region of the Eldritch Desolation, you were trapped. Didn't you rely on your plan to escape safely? At that time, even the elders seemed to rely on you and listen to your words, right? Many people were shocked. Although they knew that Chu Liyue had obtained the inheritance in the northern region of the Eldritch Desolation, they didn't know much about what Liang Xiaoxiao said. At this moment, when they suddenly heard it, they were very shocked. The elders all listened to that teenager? This sounded preposterous. But Liang Xiaoxiao's words were so convincing that it didn't seem like she was lying. As if sensing the suspicions of the surrounding people, Liang Xiaoxiao snorted coldly and said, Everyone, you might not know this, but at that time, Jiang Jiwan accidentally killed a nine-tailed blue crow, causing a large number of nine-tailed blue crows to chase after him. In a moment of desperation, they had no other choice and nowhere to escape. In the end, they followed Chu Yu all the way and successfully reached that canyon. Only then were they able to escape safely. As for my third brother, he might have been killed in that canyon. At that time, Chu Yu, of course your opinion was important. It could even influence the elders' decision. Do you dare to admit it? Liang Xiaoxiao was agitated. Her face was flushed red, and her eyes seemed to be burning with anger. Everyone around her was shocked by her words, and it took a long time for them to recover from their shock. Liang Xiaoxiao, you mean? Chu Yu was the one who brought people to the canyon? A middle-aged man suddenly asked. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths. If this was true, then didn't that mean Chu Yu knew the location of the canyon from the beginning? Then, the implications of this matter were too great. For a moment, countless pairs of doubtful eyes landed on Chu Liyue. Elder Hua Feng and the others looked tense. In fact, they had always been very curious about this point. At that time, Chu Yu's performance did seem like he was very familiar with the northern part of the primordial world. However, Chu Yu did not say much, so they did not ask further. Who knew that Liang Xiaoxiao would actually bring up this point and point it at Chu Yu? How did she know so much about it? Someone must have told her. Chu Liyue was also thinking about this question. Facing Liang Xiaoxiao's angry questioning, Chu Liyue's reaction was much calmer. She tilted her head and frowned as if she was deep in thought. Liang Xiaoxiao sneered. What? Feeling guilty? Can't you make it up? Chu Liyue shook her head and smiled. No, I'm just thinking, weren't you guys chasing after Jiang Jiwan a while ago? Why are you so biased towards her now? What? Liang Xiaoxiao's expression froze, and she did not react for a moment. Chu Liyue blinked and explained patiently with a smile. Only a few people know about the situation at that time. And there are even fewer people who are willing to tell you this. Senior Sister Liang, you probably don't know, but at that time, we were actually following Jiang Jiwan's words in the northern part of the primordial world. At that time, We had just arrived in the northern part of the primordial world, but we encountered several troubles in a row. After a while, we were almost at our wits' end. Fortunately, we met Jiang Ji1 later. She happened to escape from a predicament and had been running for a long time. She knew the safest way. Therefore, we chose to let her lead the way. As she spoke, Chu Luiyue looked at Shiru. Senior Sister Ru, oh, what do you think? Shiru curled her lips into a smile. That's right. Although I have never liked Jiang Ji1, she was the most experienced at that time, so we all chose to listen to her and escape from the northern part of the primordial world. In the end, it was Jiang Ji1 who led us. I don't know why. The leader was changed to junior brother Chuyu? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1453. Shiru's smile was cold and her tone was sarcastic. I'm afraid that someone is desperately trying to push all the blame onto someone else. Although she did not mention a name, everyone could tell that she was talking about Jiang Ji1. Liang Xiaoxiao was also stunned. She had only received this news by chance a few days ago, but she did not know who sent it. She had wanted to investigate, but the other party was very secretive. She could not find anything even after a few days of searching, so she had to put it aside for the time being. However, she believed this news very much. Because it was too detailed. She knew that it was most likely someone who had secretly leaked this news. However, she did not expect that it would be Jiang Ji1. After all, not long ago, she and her father had chased after Jiang Ji1, causing her to panic like a stray dog. In the end, she had no choice but to hide in the Yuntian Tower and did not dare to come out again. Jiang Ji1 must hate them to the core. Why would she take the initiative to say this? However, after hearing Shiru's words, Liang Xiaoxiao realized that she was wrong. Jiang Ji1 not only hated them, but also hated Chuyu and the school. If he could use this opportunity to viciously attack his enemies, then why not? In the end, Jiang Ji1, only needed to reap the benefits. After coming back to her senses, Liang Xiaoxiao's face turned green and white. She could not help but curse angrily. That be asterisk. Most of the people present had no relationship with Jiang Ji1, so they did not care when they heard this. As for Rongxiu, his attitude towards Jiang Ji1 had always been as cold as the wind, so he naturally did not take it to heart. The only person who was upset when he heard this was Bailey June. However, Liang Xiaoxiao was about to explode in anger. How could she care about Bailey June? Besides, the one who was at fault was Jiang Ji1. Even if Bailey June was unhappy, he was in no position to make a scene in front of her. Unbeknownst to her, Jiang Ji1, who was being insulted by her, was at the scene and had heard everything clearly. Jiang Ji1's heart was beating violently. Her blood was about to rush out, and her temples were throbbing. If it wasn't for her last bit of rationality, she would have already rushed over and ripped Liang Xiaoxiao's mouth apart. She clenched her fists so hard that her knuckles turned white. With great difficulty, he suppressed the emotions in his heart. These people were all waiting. So, at that time, my third brother's death. Liang Xiaoxiao gritted her teeth. So it's still related to her? Was it that bitch who told the elders not to save them? Alright. At that time, didn't Jiang Ji1 admit it herself? At that time, third brother had begged her, but she ignored him? At that time, Jiang Ji1 said that she couldn't persuade the academy elders, so she had no choice but to do so. But now, it was clear that she was the mastermind behind this matter. Chu Luiyue opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, Shiru took over. Actually, you can't completely blame Jiang Ji1 for this matter. After all, we couldn't even protect ourselves at that time. How could we have the extra strength to help? Jiang Ji1 clenched her fists so hard that they almost broke. Shiru seemed to be speaking up for her, but in fact, she was giving her a hard push. She was determined to kill her. However, no matter how much she wanted to argue, she couldn't open her mouth as she was wearing another face. A sweet and fishy smell surged up. Jiang Ji1 swallowed it. After hearing Shiru's words, many people expressed that they were convinced. Although the meteor sect had a good relationship with Lingxiao College, it wasn't to the extent that they would put in so much effort for one of their students. Shi Ruo was young, but she was very experienced in dealing with people and was very bold. Since she had said so, then it should be true. Chu Luiwei glanced at Shi Ruo, and the corners of her lips curled up. It felt good to have someone's help. She didn't persuade Zichen to release the legendary three-eyed eagle in vain. That canyon is very dangerous. It's hard to say whether anyone will live or die if they go in. We also suffered a lot when we went in. Shi Ruo tucked her hair behind her ear and said with a smile, I heard that many people here suspect that Chu Yu has a very good understanding of the northern territory of the Great Desolate Land. That's why he was able to obtain such a precious opportunity when others were having a hard time surviving. But I wonder if you have any evidence to prove it? The few people from the meteor sect, including me, have been with them all this time. If Chu Yu was really up to something, how could we not know about it? Aren't you looking down on the meteor sect too much? At the end of her speech, Shi Ruo's tone carried a trace of displeasure and arrogance. Liang Xiaoxiao's arrogance was suppressed, and her expression became somewhat hesitant. Is this true or false? Liang Ye took the opportunity to pull her back. Sit down. How can you say such things without solid evidence? Liang Xiaoxiao could only clench her teeth and sit back down. After going around in circles, the problem still came back to Jiang Jiwan. If she had the chance to meet her, she would definitely teach her a lesson. I'm afraid that we can't come to a conclusion on this matter in such a short time. I think we should change the question. A man who seemed to be in his 30s suddenly spoke. He was wearing a dark purple robe. His cheeks were thin, and his facial features were ordinary. Only his eyes seemed to have thorns, and they were exceptionally sharp and deep. Chu Luiwei glanced at him, but didn't recognize him. Rong Xiu's voice was heard at this moment. Ziguang County's princess, Yao Bin. They have suffered heavy casualties in the northern territory of the Great Desolate Land. He was very close to Chu Luiwei, so his low and deep voice was exceptionally moving. Chu Luiwei's ears became slightly hot. In addition, they have a blood feud with the Black Demon Cave. Chu Luiwei immediately became alert and tapped her fingers on the armrest. Sure enough, in the next moment, the other party went straight to the point and asked directly. Chu Yu, it's rumored that you have a close relationship with the Black Demon Cave. How do you explain this? Chu Luiwei sat up straight. Unlike her previous carefree calmness, her expression was much more serious and solemn. I have nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave. She enunciated each word clearly. Yao Bin frowned, and his expression was dangerous. If you have nothing to do with it, why do you have the aura of the Black Demon Cave on you? Digression. It's over a 5-star rating in the bookstore. February is really too pitiful. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1454. Everyone looked over, their eyes full of scrutiny and doubt. Compared to Liang Xiaokong's death, they were more concerned about this. The Black Demon Cave had a bad reputation in the Divine Ruins world. Although they had kept a low profile in recent years, it did not change most people's impression of them. Therefore, when they heard that Chu Luiwei was related to the Black Demon Cave, a string in their minds immediately tightened. Elder Bo Yen and the others also looked over. They still did not know what was going on. If Chu Luiwei could not clarify this issue, she would be attacked by the crowd. Chu Luiwei narrowed her eyes. She had the aura of the Black Demon Cave on her? She had only exchanged blows with them in the past few times, but had not done anything else. Could it be the so-called aura was left behind because of this? It shouldn't be. She had never heard of anyone being able to leave their opponent's aura on their body while fighting. She said indifferently, Princess Yao, please forgive Chu Yu for not knowing what you mean. I did have a dispute with the people of the Black Demon Cave before, but that was all. As for the rest, I don't know what's going on. Elder Wan Zheng's expression changed slightly, and he could not help but ask in a low voice. Chu Yu, you fought with the Black Demon Cave before? Those are extremely vicious people. If Chu Yu ran into them, wouldn't he? Fortunately, he was fine. It was not just Elder Wan Zheng. Hearing Chu Liyue's words, many of the people around felt their hearts beating like a drum. The people of the Black Demon Cave have not come out in recent years. How did you run into them? Yao Bin leaned forward, his eyes fixed on Chu Liyue. The pressure was extremely strong. Do you have any witnesses or evidence to back up your claims? Witnesses? Evidence? Chu Liyue could not help but chuckle. Princess Yao, why would I lie about something like this? Did he want her to resurrect Shangguan Wan? Besides, even if they didn't appear in public, it doesn't mean that they really don't go out, right? As far as I know, the strength of the Black Demon Cave can be considered tyrannical, and the scale of the entire sect is not small. Will they really obediently stay in their own territory and do nothing for the next few years? That was impossible. Yao Bin choked. Oh right, there's one more thing that I need to make clear to everyone. The person who fought with me is no longer a member of the Black Demon Cave. As for who he is, I have no idea. Not a member of the Black Demon Cave? How were they supposed to investigate? Yao Bin suddenly said, Chu Yu, my Purple Light County has fought with the Black Demon Cave for many years and can be considered to have some experience. I can confirm that you do have the aura of the Black Demon Cave. If you really have a clear conscience, do you dare to let me investigate? Chu Liyue's eyebrows twitched slightly. Before he could speak, he heard Rong Xiu's soft voice. How does Princess Yao plan to investigate? Yao Bin glanced at Rong Xiu, knowing that he intended to stand up for him. However, if he didn't get to the bottom of this matter, he definitely wouldn't let it go. Their Purple Light County would not easily let go of anyone who was related to the Black Demon Cave. Yao Bin took something from his hand. It was a thumb ring, completely carved out of purple jade. It was sparkling and translucent, glossy and shiny. As the light flowed, one could vaguely see something flowing slowly inside. A wave of pressure that could not be ignored spread out from it. This thumb ring can detect the aura of the Black Demon Cave. If there is anything related to the Black Demon Cave in Chu Yu's body, it will be forced out. If there is nothing, everything will be normal. As Yao Bin spoke, he looked at Chu Liyue. Chu Yu, do you dare to accept? Although it was somewhat shameful to accept such an investigation in public, there was no doubt that this was the most straightforward way to clear his name. No matter how much he said, it was better to verify his innocence. Chu Liyue pondered for a moment, then nodded. Good. Anyway, she had a clear conscience. What was there to be afraid of? Rong Xiu looked at her. Seeing her determined expression, his thin lips moved slightly, but he did not say anything in the end. Yao Bin stood up, walked to the center, and said to Chu Liyue, Please come forward. Chu Liyue walked over. The two of them stood still, separated by 10 steps. Yao Bin's expression was much more serious. He raised his hand, then closed his eyes. The thumb ring flew out from his hand, then headed straight for Chu Liyue. Soon, it stopped above Chu Liyue's head. Buzz. A roar sounded. Purple light instantly poured down like a waterfall, surrounding Chu Liyue. Chu Liyue's body was completely surrounded by that purple light curtain. In an instant, it was as if countless sharp and cold blades were scraping her body. Chu Liyue frowned slightly. But fortunately, the pain was not too intense, so she endured it. Everyone held their breaths and waited. Yao Bin didn't even blink as he stared at the screen. The passage of time seemed to be extraordinarily long. Suddenly, an unusual fluctuation came from Chu Liyue's universe ring. The purple jade thumb ring spun quickly, and the surrounding light curtain formed a whirlpool around Chu Liyue like water, emitting a sharp cry. Yao Bin's expression turned serious. There was indeed something fishy. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Some could no longer hold back and leaned forward, afraid that they would miss something. They would not know if they did not investigate, but once they did, there was really something wrong with Chu Yu. Elder Bo Yen and the others looked at each other and saw the shock and astonishment in each other's eyes. Didn't Chu Yu say that he had nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave? Now, Chu Liyue looked down. A white light suddenly flashed in her mind. How could she forget about the wooden tablet? Some time ago, she had come to Fangzhou City with Luo Yanming and Zhuosheng to relax. At that time, she had met a middle-aged man at a street stall in the city. That man was the soul that had been chasing her relentlessly. It was also that time that she had obtained a wooden tablet from him. That was the wooden tablet of the Black Demon Cave. The totem of the Black Demon Cave was clearly engraved on it. After repelling the soul, she had wanted to destroy the wooden tablet, but after thinking about it again and again, she put it aside for the time being. She did not expect that it would cause her such trouble today. The whistling sound was even sharper. It was as if an invisible force was desperately drilling into the Qiankun ring in an attempt to force the wooden tablet out. However, even after a long while, the interspatial ring showed no signs of being broken. Yao Bin frowned. How could the defensive power of this universe ring be so strong? Chu Luiyue also suddenly thought of this question, and her heart skipped a beat. This was Rong Xiu's universe ring. It was also a symbol of the saint's identity. It was normal for it to be able to resist Yao Bin's power, but in the eyes of others, mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1455. Anyone with a brain would have guessed that there was something wrong with the interspatial ring. Chu Luiyue's mind raced. Ever since she left the Yuntian Tower, she had disguised the interspatial ring whenever she went out. From the outside, it looked just like an ordinary gray interspatial ring. As long as one did not check it carefully, no one would think that the most noble ring of the Yuntian Tower was on her finger. But now, the interspatial ring easily intercepted Yao Bin's power. At this time, Yao Bin also noticed that something was wrong. He looked at Chu Luiyue with eyes full of suspicion. The interspatial ring on Chu Yu's finger seemed to be unusual. He was slightly angry. He suddenly raised his hand and threw out a divine power. The divine power quickly poured into the purple jade ring. In an instant, its momentum soared. The wind whistled. Chu Luiyue stood in the center of the vortex, her clothes fluttering. She almost felt that her body was about to be strangled by the violent power. She made a prompt decision. A slight sound came out. She calmly removed the power from the interspatial ring and released the wooden tablet at the same time. Everyone only saw something suddenly fly out. Chu Luiyue staggered and quietly escaped from the vortex. At the same time, she resealed the interspatial ring. There were too many things hidden in it that could not be shown publicly. Yao Bin's figure flashed forward swiftly, and he held the wooden token tightly in his hand. Then he waved his wrist and took back the purple jade ring. The oppressive power disappeared, and Chu Luiyue finally breathed a sigh of relief. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. In the eyes of the onlookers, that thing could not withstand the pressure of the purple jade ring and was forced out. Didn't they see that Chu Yu's face was a little pale? However, no one had any other doubts. Except for Yao Bin. He glanced at Chu Luiyue suspiciously. In that instant, his intuition shouldn't be wrong. The ring on Chu Yu's finger was not ordinary, but it indeed only happened in an instant. Looking at Chu Yu now, it didn't seem like it. Could it be that he was wrong? A trace of uncertainty appeared in Yao Bin's heart. Princess Yao, what are you holding in your hand? A question interrupted Yao Bin's thoughts. He calmed down and planned to suppress these things first and talk about it later. The most important thing now was the Black Demon Cave. He glanced at the item in his hand, his expression suddenly became cold. Although he had guessed what it was before, when he saw the totem on the wooden tablet that he hated so deeply, his heart was still filled with endless resentment and anger. He clutched the wooden sign tightly and suddenly looked at Chu Luiyue. Chu Yu, this is the wooden tablet of the Black Demon Cave. And its level is quite high. If you really have nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave, why would you have such a thing on you? As soon as he said that, the crowd, Black Demon Cave's wooden tablet? That was not something an ordinary person. Wouldn't this confirm his previous suspicions towards Chu Yu? Everyone's This wooden tablet of the Black Demon Cave, it seems that only their own people have it, right? That's right. A few years ago, we fought with the Black Demon Cave and saw their people take out this wooden tablet with our own eyes. This wooden tablet is carved from sea buckthorn wood, and the totem of the Black Demon Cave is engraved in the middle. I heard that every totem was drawn with their own blood as a guide, and no one else can copy it. Moreover, they value this wooden tablet very much. Generally speaking, they would never let it fall into the hands of others. The crowd discussed fervently, clearly suspecting Chu Luiyue. It was as if they were certain that Chu Luiyue was in cahoots with the Black Demon Cave. Elder Bo Yen and the others were also stunned for a moment. Black Demon Cave's wooden tablet? How could that kid have such a thing on him? Elder Bo Yen was stunned for a moment, and then looked at Rong Xiu. The two of them had a close relationship. Did Rong Xiu know about this? Unfortunately, Rong Xiu's face was as calm and indifferent as ever, and no clues could be seen. As if sensing Elder Bo Yan's gaze, Rong Xiu glanced sideways, and the corners of his lips curled up imperceptibly, giving Elder Bo Yen a reassuring look. Elder Bo Yen heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that Rong Xiu knew what was going on. He was relieved. At first, he did not believe that Chu Yu had anything to do with the Black Demon Cave. Who did not know that Rong Xiu and the Black Demon Cave were enemies? If Chu Yu really had something to do with the Black Demon Cave, why would Rong Xiu protect him like this? Speaking of which, Rong Xiu was part of the reason why the Black Demon Cave had suddenly stopped in the past few years. However, not many people knew about this, so when the wooden tablet appeared, everyone was full of doubts about Chu Yu. Chu Luiyue coughed a few times. Without the pressure of the external force, her complexion looked better. However, her lips were still slightly pale, and it was not difficult to tell what kind of pain she had just experienced. Chu Luiyue looked at the wooden tablet and smiled helplessly. "So this is what you're talking about?" She rubbed her eyebrows. "Have you forgotten? I said just now that I've fought with their people. This wooden tablet was obtained at that time." Yaobin did not believe it. "So simple? I don't think so." Everyone in the Black Demon sect has a wooden tablet like this. In other words, this is a symbol of their status. The stronger they are, the higher their level, the more importance they attach to the wooden tablet. The one in my hand must be a famous existence in the Black Demon sect. To be more direct, it must be a high god expert at the very least. Such a person, as long as they still have a breath left, would never let this wooden tablet fall into the hands of others, especially their enemies. You said that you obtained this thing at that time. Doesn't this mean that you killed a high god expert of the other party? Yaobin twitched the corner of his mouth, and the lines on his thin face were cold and hard. Who would believe this? There was dead silence. It was not difficult to deduce that Chu Yu should have this wooden tablet before he entered the northern region of the Eldritch Desolation. After he returned, he had been staying in Lingxiao College and had no chance to obtain this thing. When he entered the northern region of the Eldritch Desolation, he seemed to be a rank 8 warrior. With such strength, killing a high god expert, it was not a fool's dream. However, in the face of Yaobin's questioning, Chu Luiyue's face did not show the slightest bit of panic. She laughed, and her tone was still calm. "Princess Yao seems to have forgotten one thing. I just said that the person who fought with me has already left the Black Demon sect. So this thing should not be that important to him, right?" Yaobin was stunned, and the rest of his words were stuck in his throat. Yes, Chu Yu did say that. But at that time, he did not care. If that person was really no longer a member of the Black Demon sect, this wooden tablet would naturally become a piece of trash, not worth mentioning. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1456. Yaobin stared at Chu Luiyue, as if he wanted to see through all her thoughts. At present, there were two possibilities. Firstly, Chu Yu had long known the importance of this wooden tablet to the people of the Black Demon sect, so he deliberately said those words to excuse himself. Secondly, Chu Yu did not know anything about this. He just happened to meet someone who had left the Black Demon sect and obtained this wooden tablet by chance. But for a moment, he was unable to determine what was going on. "Based on your words alone, we can't believe your words." Do you have any evidence? Or was there someone else who was fighting alongside you? Chu Lue said honestly, at that time, there was only him and me. No one else was present. Many people looked at each other. Alone? That was even more absurd. If someone helped, it wasn't impossible for Chu Yu to win this battle. But now, even he admitted that he was the only one. It was really hard to believe. Yao Bin's expression turned even colder as he gripped the wooden tablet tightly. If that's the case, I'm afraid we have to investigate thoroughly. Wait. Chu Lue opened her mouth and interrupted him. The corners of her lips curled up slightly as she smiled softly. Although I was fighting alone at that time, I have a witness for this matter. Witness? Including Yao Bin, everyone present was stunned. It was clearly a one-on-one battle. How could there be a witness? Just as everyone was filled with doubts, Chu Lue turned around and waved at Luo Yanming and Zhuosheng, who were standing behind Elder Wensi. Yanming, Zhuosheng, please help me testify. The two people who were suddenly called out were at a loss. Zhuosheng pointed directly at himself and asked in disbelief, "What? Why didn't he know that this matter had anything to do with them?" Luo Yanming stared at the wooden tablet and suddenly thought of something. He made up his mind and walked forward. "Hey, wait for me." Seeing him walk forward, Zhuosheng hurriedly chased after him. No matter what, Chu Yu needed their help, so they had to help. They quickly stood beside Chu Lue. Countless gazes fell on the two of them, causing them to involuntarily become nervous. Although the two of them were disciples of aristocratic families and could be considered to be experienced and knowledgeable. However, they had never experienced such a big scene where all the big shots of the divine ruins were staring at them. Those gazes seemed to materialize as they landed on their bodies, causing their bodies to stiffen. Even the carefree and carefree Zhuosheng had become much more obedient. Luo Yanming's heart was beating a little fast, and her hands and her sleeves were clenched tightly. He instinctively glanced at Chu Lue, but he saw that the young man beside her had a calm expression, a smile on his lips, and was at ease, as if he wasn't affected by the invisible pressure at all. This brat's attitude was too good, Luo Yanming in his heart. In such a situation, he too was to be in such a situation. But I heard that he was the one who suggested this meeting. Someone who could do such a thing naturally had a lot of guts. We can testify for Chu Yu. Luo Yanming took a deep breath and said word by word. He raised his hand and pointed at the wooden token in Yao Bin's hand. We just happened to be with him on the day he obtained the wooden tablet. We also know exactly how he obtained it. In short, what he said just now was true. Zhuosheng finally reacted and hurriedly nodded. That's right. We can indeed testify. This wooden token was bought by him from a peddler when we were strolling around Fangzhou City. He even cut the price by half. The corner of Yao Bin's eyes twitched. Chu Lue was both grateful and amused. Under such circumstances, anyone who stood up for her was taking a huge risk. But they still did it. Seeing that everyone seemed to be at a loss, Luo Yanming immediately recounted what happened that day. Of course, he and Zhuosheng did not participate in the part where Chu Lue chased out of the city and fought, so they skipped over it. But overall, it did indeed support Chu Liuyue's previous statement. Zhuosheng, who was at the side, added a few words from time to time. That's what happened. Luo Yanming let out a long sigh. If you don't believe me, there were a few elders and students who went with us to look for Chu Yu that day. They can also testify. It was all true that happened, so it was naturally more convincing. Silence reigned in the field. After a while, Yao Bin frowned and looked at Chu Lue. So, that day, that person deliberately used this wooden token to lure you out of the city, and you fought? Chu Lue nodded. To be honest, I had a grudge with that person before, and I also knew that he was from the Black Demon Cave, so when I saw his wooden token, I chased after him without hesitation. However, after the fight, I found out that he had already left the Black Demon Cave. Actually, when you said that I killed him, it was not accurate. Because he was only a soul, and did not have a physical body. Just based on what I know, he had already possessed no less than 2 people. That day, I only forced him to retreat, and did not kill him completely. It was also because of this that I kept that wooden token, thinking that I would have the chance to investigate it in the future. Yao Bin's expression changed slightly. This series of explanations was really flawless. He pondered for a long time. In that case, I still have one last question. If you can answer it, I will believe what you said today and completely dispel all my doubts about you. Chu Luiwe nodded. Please. Yao Bin stared at her with a heavy gaze. If that person was only left with a soul, his strength would definitely be reduced, but even so, he could possess someone, so he was at least at the level of a demigod. According to what you said at that time, you should only be a rank 8 warrior, right? How did you win? Even though the situation was somewhat different from what they had expected at the beginning, there was still a huge gap between a rank 8 warrior and a demigod. It was like a natural chasm of combat power, and it was simply impossible for others to catch up. Chu Yu fought alone and won. How did he do it? In fact, this was the question that everyone present was curious about. During this period of time, Chu Yu's name had spread throughout the divine ruins. Among them, there were many guesses about his talent and strength. One thing was certain, and that was that Chu Yu was indeed a genius. Moreover, he seemed to be quite talented in Xian Master and Celestial Physician. However, a genius was a genius, but he might not be a powerhouse. That battle was truly inconceivable. Hearing this, Chu Liuyue's lips curled up, and she smiled. Her eyes were curved, and her eyes were like stars. Because of this smile, his face, which could only be considered delicate and pretty, became lively. She said very seriously and sincerely, I have a trump card. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1457. Everyone? What kind of answer was that? They had seen arrogant people, but they had never seen such arrogant people. Yao Bin couldn't help but chuckle with some disapproval. Trump card? Then I wonder what kind of trump card could allow a rank 8 warrior to defeat a demigod? Since ancient times, such things were very rare. This Chu Yu, I really don't know what he was thinking, to actually give such an answer. Even if he had a trump card, in the case of an extremely tyrannical opponent, the weak wouldn't even have a chance to make a move. What's more winning? Chu Luiwe crossed his arms and supported his chin with one hand, showing a troubled expression. Trump card. At that time, she had taken out Scarlet Heaven Sword and directly killed the other party. If she said it, everyone would definitely guess that it was a venerable artifact. At that time, it might cause some trouble again, but if she didn't say it, it was obvious that the situation in front of her was unsolvable. Chu Liuyue's hesitant look, in the eyes of everyone, was undoubtedly guilty. What trump card? I think it's just an excuse he made up. That's right, a rank 8 warrior fighting a demigod, isn't this courting death? It's already very difficult to escape alive, and he actually said that he won. He really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I think either the origin of this wooden token is wrong, or he used other methods. Actually, no one has seen those people from the Black Demon Cave. Who knows if they really started fighting or all kinds of discussions drilled into their ears. Zhuosheng was anxious and couldn't help but shout, "What we said just now is all true." When Chu Yu came back that day, he was even injured. Being injured doesn't mean anything. Yao Bin looked at Zhuosheng coldly, and the tyrannical pressure suddenly pressed down on Zhuosheng's chest, making him unable to speak. His face quickly flushed red. Yao Bin! Elder Bo Yen suddenly shouted in a low voice. An invisible force flew out. Bang! A slight collision sound rang out. Zhuosheng immediately felt the pressure on his body dissipate. He was finally able to relax and gasped for breath. However, his heart was still beating crazily and couldn't calm down for a long time. He knew that as long as the other party wanted to, he could take his life at any time. If not for Elder Bo Yan's help, Yao Bin, don't go too far. Elder Bo Yan's face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. The coldness was threatening. Zhuosheng was only standing here as a witness. What right did Yao Bin have to make a move? The people of his Spirit Firmament Academy were watching right here. Yao Bin also felt that he had lost his composure. He frowned and his tone softened a lot. I just think he's a little noisy. After all, I asked Chuyu. This old man knows that Purple Light County and Black Demon Cave are like fire and water, so it is normal for Princess Yao to lose her composure. However, everyone was here today to solve the problem, not to create a problem. Princess Yao, please pay more attention in the future. Lingxiao College and Ziguang County did not have any grudges, and Yao Bin was not a bad person. Since the other party had lowered his stance, Elder Bo Yen did not intend to be too aggressive. Just a little bit of vigilance was enough. Elder Bo Yen raised his chin at Luo Yanming and Zhuosheng. You do come back. The two of them looked at Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue knew that they were worried about her, and her heart warmed. Don't worry, I'm fine. Only then did the two of them retreat. Princess Yao. Chu Luiyue looked at Yao Bin. If we continue to argue, no matter how much we say, no one will believe us completely. Why don't we change the method and end this quickly? Yao Bin frowned. What do you want to do? Chu Luiyue's lips curled up slightly as she looked around. Everyone should be thinking the same thing as Princess Yao, that I'm just lying. Since that's the case, why don't we have a match? Those who have come here today are all famous experts of the Divine Ruins world. Why don't everyone choose a demigod expert to fight with me? Let's see if I, Chuyu, can win this match. After a short silence, the crowd was in an uproar. Did this Chuyu know what he was saying? Fighting a demigod expert in front of everyone. Wasn't he looking for trouble for himself? Chu Luiyue had already expected their reaction, so she didn't care. She raised her chin slightly, and her smile deepened. In order to completely recreate the situation that day, I will also suppress my strength to the peak of the 8th stage. This way, after the battle, these people wouldn't have the chance to nitpick even if they wanted to. Yao Bin looked at Chu Luiyue in shock. Crazy. Really crazy. If Chu Yu fought with his current strength, perhaps he wouldn't lose so miserably. But he still wanted to suppress his strength to the 8th stage? He must be tired of living. Elder Bo Yen was a little anxious and wanted to object. However, before he could say anything, a low and pleasant voice suddenly sounded in his ear. Elder, let her do as she pleases. Elder Bo Yen turned his head in surprise. Rong Xiu. Rong Xiu's thin lips curled up slightly, revealing an extremely faint smile. Since she dares to say so, she must be prepared. He knew her too well. She wasn't someone who liked to be taken advantage of. After being bullied to such an extent, how could she let it go just like that? Even if the other party wanted to stop now, she wouldn't agree. Hearing this, Elder Bo Yan's heart calmed down a little. After thinking about it again and again, he could only nod. Forget it. If Chu Yu really couldn't beat the other party, it wouldn't be too late for him to make a move then. After all, he was from Lingxiao College and no one could bully him. Since Chu Luiyue took the initiative to say so, how could the others not agree? Yao Bin took a deep breath. Bold. This kind of courage wasn't something an ordinary person could have. He just didn't know if this Chu Yu was a newborn calf that wasn't afraid of tigers, or did he really have a trump card? Chu Luiyue smiled lightly and nodded. Thank you for the compliment. Then, who do you want to invite? Everyone looked around. There were many exalted gods here, but not many demigods. A slightly hoarse voice suddenly sounded. I'll do it. Bailey Jun turned his head in surprise. Lil Lu Yu, her body hadn't completely recovered yet. Jiang Jiwon's heart was very firm. There weren't many opportunities to kill Chu Yu in public like this. Chu Luiyue looked at the young man who stood out and narrowed her eyes dangerously. After a moment, she smiled brightly. Sure. You're welcome. Digression, today's 4th update, tomorrow's 6th update. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1458. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Jiang Ziyuan, who had carefully disguised herself, with different expressions. From the outside, she looked like an ordinary young man in all aspects. And her aura was indeed that of a demigod. Originally, everyone was still a little hesitant about the candidate, but now that someone had stepped forward, they were relieved. Moreover, this person was brought here by Bailey June, so everyone had to give him some face. In some people's eyes, perhaps Bailey Chun was trying to support the young man he had taken a fancy to. After all, if she could show off in front of so many big shots in the world of God, she would definitely become famous. No one objected, so the matter was settled. Jiang Jiwon took a deep breath and walked forward. When she passed by Bailey June did not forget to remind her in a low voice. Xiao Lu, be careful. Jiang Jiwon smiled and nodded. Thank you, Patriarch. As she spoke, she continued to walk forward and to the center of the field, facing Chu Liwei. Yao Bin glanced at the two of them. He did not know this person called Xiao Lu, but if she was valued so much by Bailey June, she must be quite capable. He thought for a moment and said, "This match is very important. I hope that both of you can do your best and don't have any concerns. As long as it doesn't hurt your life, everything else is up to you." Many people were shocked. They all knew that this would be a fierce battle. Bailey June stared at the field, his old face expressionless. Only that pair of slightly turbid but still shrewd eyes revealed that he was not as unconcerned as he appeared to be. In fact, he had his own plans when he agreed to Jiang Jiwon's request. Jiang Jiwon had been expelled from Lingxiao College and her reputation was almost ruined. In the world of God, she could not even raise her head. If she could win this match beautifully, everyone present would definitely look at her in a different light. At that time, it would be logical to reveal Jiang Jiwon's identity. At that time, Elder Bo Yen and the others would realize how much of a pity it was for them to give up on Jiang Jiwon. Choosing to support Chu Yu with all their might was a huge mistake. Bailey June's plan was perfect and he directly ignored this match. Jiang Jiwon was facing the opponent's rank 8 warrior with the strength of a demigod. This was an extremely unfair competition to begin with. It was normal for Jiang Jiwon to win, but if he lost, he would have nothing left. Chu Liwei looked at the young man in front of him and raised his eyebrows slightly. "May I know this brother's name?" Jiang Jiwon said calmly, "I'm only here to exchange blows with you. You don't need to know my name." Her identity was fake to begin with. It was fine if she said a vague name, but the more details she said, the easier it would be for people to find out. Rong Xiu was still here. If he wanted to investigate, she didn't think she could really avoid it. Chu Liwei shrugged and chuckled. "Don't misunderstand, I just feel that. You're a little similar to someone I know." Jiang Jiwon's heart skipped a beat, and a trace of impatience appeared on his face. "Time is of the essence, let's end this quickly." Chu Liwei smiled and agreed. "Okay." Before she finished speaking, Jiang Jiwon had already started to move. His feet were slightly crossed, his knees were half lowered, and the force around him was rapidly gathering. His aura was surging. Chu Liwei narrowed his eyes. This aura, it was a little different from what she had expected. Every cultivator's aura was unique. Once they made a move, those who were familiar with them would definitely be able to guess it. She originally thought, seeing Chu Liu's expression, Jiang Jiwon sneered in his heart. Since she had decided to come, of course, she had to be fully prepared. Before coming, Bailey June had already used the Yuan instrument to conceal and change her aura. Even if she used the force and attacked, she didn't have to worry about being detected. Moreover, with the help of the Yuan instrument, her combat strength was much stronger than before. In short, today's competition, she was definitely going to win. A jade-green origin power gushed out from her palm and quickly gathered in front of her to form a giant wheel. Then, with a flick of her other hand, a bright bead flew out. Bang! A crisp sound was heard. The bright white pearl the size of a longan collided with the center of the turquoise wheel. The sound was extremely crisp and clear, like jade hitting stone. In the next moment, the pearl was like a drop of ink falling into water, quickly spreading out. Soon, the brilliant ball of light expanded rapidly, almost occupying half of the turquoise wheel, forming a small wheel. The turquoise and bright white intertwined, and it was especially eye-catching. It was emitting a powerful aura. When everyone saw this, they were all slightly shocked. Two types of divine power. This person called Little Lu is actually so powerful? No way. A cultivator can only have one type of divine power in his body. Did he take out a bead and throw it in just now? That bright white divine power must have been stored in it in advance, right? As long as it is activated, the divine power in it can be released for one's own use. This divine pearl is very convenient to use, but the refining process is very complicated. Many people may not be able to refine a divine pearl that belongs to them even if they break through to the immortal realm. I don't know where Little Lu got it from. Are you stupid? Bailey June values it so much. What is this divine pearl? Hey, now that you mention it, Bailey June's divine power seems to be bright white. Could this divine pearl be? Of course, this was Bailey June's divine pearl. This time, he had brought Jiang Ji1 here. No matter how he thought about it, he felt that it was not safe. Just in case, he gave Jiang Ji1 a lot of good things to protect herself. This divine pearl was not worth mentioning in comparison. But in the eyes of others, this was a bit too much. This is not fair. Whispers of discussion could be heard from the crowd. What level is Bailey June at? The divine pearl that he refined with his own divine power is much more powerful than an ordinary immortal realm expert. That Little Lu took out this thing the moment he attacked. Isn't he bullying others? That's right. It was originally a demigod against a rank 8 warrior, and now he even used external force. Heh, is he afraid that he can't beat him? Actually, this matter is not as serious as you say. This is a competition in itself. No one said that it can't be like this, right? That's true, but I want to save face. It's not enough to fight a rank 8 warrior with the strength of a demigod, and I still want to take advantage of him. Although everyone present was here to find trouble with Chu Luiyue, they were still of noble status. High and mighty people cared about their reputation the most. It could be explained that they joined forces to interrogate a teenager to find out the truth. But what about the competition in front of them? Wasn't this bullying? The soft voices entered her ears, causing Jiang Ji1 to feel a little irritated. She steeled her heart and urged the power in her body faster. Clear sky, scorching sun wheel. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1459. The two overlapping wheels, one green and one white, suddenly began to rotate slowly in opposite directions. The middle part of the wheel made a click sound. If one listened carefully, it actually sounded like gears biting together. They were interlocked and very exquisite. As the two wheels intertwined and rotated, it also produced an astonishing pressure. The surrounding energy of heaven and earth began to quickly converge towards this side. One in front and one behind, it actually formed two energy vortexes. Hiss! To be able to fuse these two divine powers so perfectly, it's rare. It seems that this young man is not completely useless. To be able to catch the eye of Bailey June, it's naturally not ordinary. I think there seems to be a gap between these two divine powers. It can't be considered a perfect match. This person looks to be in his 20s. If he's a demigod expert, his talent isn't considered top-notch. As for Chu Yu, he seems to be only 17, right? He's already a stage 9 warrior. But now that the two of them are fighting, isn't it obvious who has the advantage? This match had nothing to do with their talent, it was only related to their current combat power. Jiangjun felt like there was a ball of fire in her heart that was constantly surging, as if it would explode from her chest in the next moment. She had heard enough of such words. So what if his talent was better? Before he grew into a true expert, he was just a piece of trash. Today, she would take revenge for both old and new grudges. Go! Jiang Jiwan roared. The huge wheel immediately crushed towards Chu Luiyue. Its speed wasn't fast, and it was very uniform and stable. It seemed to be too leisurely. However, wherever the wheel passed, the void collapsed, and a large area of black holes appeared. One could see how powerful it was. Before it arrived in front of her, a gust of wind had already swept over. Chu Luiyue's clothes and hair fluttered in the wind. She narrowed her eyes slightly. The closer she got, the more she could feel the astonishing power between the two intertwining wheels. Once she was dragged into it, she was afraid that not even a complete corpse would be left. It was just a match to determine the winner. Why did he use such a killing move at the beginning? This young man, who was specially brought by Bailey June, seemed to have a deep hostility towards her, and even a killing intent. Chu Luiwei flicked his wrist, and a dazzling blue-gold light flashed past. Everyone only saw a blur in front of their eyes before they saw a sword appear in Chu Luiwei's hand. The blue-gold light came from the scabbard. Chu Luiwei held the scabbard with one hand and raised his other hand, slowly grasping the slender and cold sword hilt. The surrounding power flowed like a river, causing the tassels at the end of the curl to sway gently. Chu Luiwei's expression gradually darkened as he held his breath. His black jade-like eyes, which seemed to have sunk into a deep pool, gradually glowed with a piercingly cold light. An indistinct killing intent silently surged like the fog in the middle of the night. Unknowingly, everything was surrounded. There seemed to be an invisible barrier around her, isolating her from the outside world. It was as if no matter what happened outside, it would not affect her at all. Even at this moment, he was still calm and composed. Some people secretly exchanged glances. This Chuyu, it seems that he's not that simple. Jiang Jiwon met that pair of cold eyes, and in an instant, her entire body turned cold. An indescribable fear suddenly rose from the bottom of her heart. She clenched her teeth and tried her best to calm herself down and suppress her restless heartbeat. What was there to be afraid of? The strength of a rank 8 warrior, how strong could he be? Right now, she was 2 whole ranks higher than the other party. He was just putting on an act. Thinking of this, Jiang Jiwon's mood finally calmed down a little. Clang. Chu Luiwei drew his sword. A streak of rainbow-colored light streaked across the sky. Some sharp-eyed people's expressions changed, and they immediately sat up straight. Their eyes were fixed on the sword. Those present were all strong people of the current era. What good things had they not seen before? Their eyesight was very sharp. The moment Chu Luiwei took out the Scarlet Heaven Sword, someone immediately sensed that something was wrong. This is the divine weapon that the Golden Wing sect and Lingxiao College fought over in the Blue Feather Abyss? That's it. Previously in the northern region of the Primitive Desolation, Chuyu also used this sword to split open the door of the mysterious space. However, the aura of the sword at that time didn't seem to be so shocking. But this is indeed the same sword. Moreover, didn't Jin D suspect that it was actually a venerable divine weapon? Such an aura, such a pressure, how could a king divine weapon possess it? In fact, although everyone had heard of this news, there were not many who really took it to heart, because it had been too long since a venerable divine weapon appeared in the Divine Ruins world. Moreover, they actually knew the ins and outs of this divine weapon. At that time, the Golden Wing sect and Lingxiao College were fighting over it. In the end, for some reason, Jin Lei died, and Chuyu became the owner of that divine weapon by accident. If it was really a venerable divine weapon, would Lingxiao College be willing to give it up? But what they didn't expect was that Lingxiao College was really willing to give it up. Moreover, because of the mediation of Rong Xiu and the others, the elders didn't even pursue Chu Luiwei. They just let her take away a venerable divine weapon. After all, Lingxiao College was not the same as these aristocratic families. Therefore, at this moment, when they saw the red cloud sword in Chu Luiwei's hand, they only realized in hindsight and were full of shock. I've already said it. Jin D stared at the red cloud sword with bloodshot eyes. Although Chu Luiwei had used the red cloud sword in public before, she just waved it casually and didn't display its true power. In addition, those people's attention was elsewhere at that time, so they didn't pay much attention to it. It was not until now that Chu Luiwei was about to officially take action that they realized that they had made such a big mistake. But now it was too late for regrets. After all, they couldn't openly snatch something from Lingxiao College's student in their territory, right? However, there were still some people who were quick-witted. Jiang Jiwon also saw it and couldn't help but feel jealous. The things that Bailey June gave her were not bad, and she was very satisfied at the beginning. but compared to a venerable divine weapon, it was nothing. This Chu Yu's background was unclear, and he was arrogant and undisciplined, which was very annoying. She really didn't know what the college and Rong Xiu saw in him. Suddenly, Chu Luiyue threw the scabbard into the air. A brilliant ray of light streaked across the air. In the next moment, Chu Luiyue held the sword with both hands and tiptoed. Her figure instantly flew out. She was very agile. She soared into the air. She raised the sword above her head. Whoosh! The surrounding energy of heaven and earth suddenly gathered toward the red cloud sword in a frenzy. In an instant, the world lost its color. It was a shock. Even the energy that was surging toward the wheel of the blue sky scorching sun was suddenly blocked by an invisible pressure. It changed direction and rushed into the red cloud sword at an even faster speed. What? Jiang Jiwan's heart skipped a beat. How could a venerable divine weapon be so domineering? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1460. But before she could digest this shock, she saw an even more frightening scene. After forcefully plundering the energy of heaven and earth that the clear sky-scorching sun wheel was devouring, the scarlet heaven sword actually started to shake the power of the wheel. The two wheels that were originally rotating in perfect harmony were now affected by the terrifying pressure and actually started to shake. In the middle of the green and white wheels, a section suddenly staggered and let out an ear-piercing sound. The two forces instantly deviated from each other. They started to strangle each other. Jiang Jiwan's heart suddenly skipped a beat. The trace of fear that she had buried deep in her heart finally surged up at this moment. It easily drowned her. How could this be? How could this be? The duel had not officially started, and her opponent had only used a sword. It actually directly destroyed her attack. This move was a trump card that she had seriously practiced when she was following Bailey June. Other than the two of them, no one else knew that she would use this move. On one hand, she did not want to expose her identity. On the other hand, she wanted to get rid of Chu Yu directly, so she directly chose this move. Jiang Jiwan's mind raced as she quickly took out the second God's Pearl. It shot out. Bang. The God's Pearl entered the center. A vast and terrifying power surged out. In the blink of an eye, the bright white God's power quickly spread out and enveloped the entire huge clear sky scorching sun wheel. The white color was still white, and the green color also became white. The two wheels that were about to go berserk were finally controlled in time. The green God's power was devoured and completely merged with the small white wheel inside. The aura on it seemed to be even stronger than before. It continued to close in on Chu Luiyue. However, this scene caused many people to frown and shake their heads repeatedly. The balance between the two gods' powers was broken by Chu Yu, and little Lu was unable to do anything about it. He could only add another God's Pearl to completely cover his green God's power and barely control it. But, in this way, doesn't it mean that he didn't do anything at all, and only threw out two God's Pearls to deal with this competition? Bailey June is really good to him. He actually took out two God's Pearls so casually. I think we might be able to pull out a few more boosts later. If that's the case, why don't we just let Bailey June come up and fight with Chu Yu? Isn't that more direct and convenient? Everyone discussed animatedly, and there was no lack of ridicule. They were willing to give Bailey June face, but it did not mean that they were afraid of him. Look at this match. What did it look like? What a joke. That little Lu is representing us. His actions are really shameful. If I had known this would happen, I would have sent someone stronger up there. Isn't it too late to say that now? I only hope that after using so many methods, he won't lose in the end. That's hard to say. Chu Yu hasn't officially made his move yet. Bailey June was also anxious when he saw this. How could he have thought that Chu Yu actually had a venerable artifact? But a mere rank 8 warrior shouldn't even have the strength to pick up a venerable artifact, so how did he unleash its might and power? Chu Luiyue did not care about the commotion outside and held her breath in concentration. In fact, everything happened in the blink of an eye. Scarlet Heavensword's efficiency in devouring the energy of heaven and earth was very high. Under normal circumstances, she could swing her sword in the blink of an eye. But today, she deliberately slowed down her movements. The huge wheel that was emitting a dazzling light was already in front of her. It was only a few steps away from Chu Liyue. Chu Liyue's eyes sharpened. The force in her limbs and bones seemed to have been summoned and surged out together. Then she decisively swung her sword. Scarlet Heavensword, break. Swoosh. The long sword slashed down. Kacha. A subtle but clear sound suddenly came from the wheel. Jiang Jiwan's smile suddenly froze. She looked in horror at a neat crack that appeared in the middle of the wheel. In the next moment, the wheel broke. The energy scattered in all directions. Boom. Following this shocking explosion, the originally majestic wheel transformed into countless specks of light that swept out in all directions. Jiang Jiwan was the first to bear the brunt of the impact. Her body was instantly sent flying. Bam! She landed heavily on the ground and even slid quite a distance. A long trail of blood was left on the ground. Her back was burning with pain, and her internal organs felt like they were being crushed by something. Jiang Jiwan spat out a mouthful of blood. She had not recovered from her injuries to begin with, and now that she was injured again, she was even more miserable and almost fainted. Bailey Jun suddenly stood up. He waved his sleeves and was about to attack. However, at this moment, Rong Xiu suddenly looked over. There was a faint smile on his devilish face, but his eyes were as deep as the sea and as sharp as a knife. Clan leader, you seem to be very concerned about this person? The competition is not over yet. Wouldn't it be inappropriate for you to attack? You, Bailey Chun choked on his words. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He gritted his teeth and finally sat back down. I know. There was dead silence. Princess Yao. Chu Liyue suddenly tilted her head and looked at Yao Bin, who was standing at the side. He subconsciously looked over, and there was still a look of shock on his face. It was obvious that Chu Liyue's current abilities had far exceeded his expectations. Did you see it clearly just now? Chu Liyue curved her lips into a smile. That's how I won that day. Then she looked around. Her tone was still casual and calm, and her smile was gentle. Everyone, if there's anyone who didn't see it clearly, I can demonstrate it again. Digression. Yesterday, I broke my hand washing socks. I cried because of my stupidity. After a night, it's already much better. Sob, sob, sob. Update will continue at 6:00 p.m. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from love. Chapter 1461. Demonstrate again? Even if he had the strength to swing his sword again, Lil Lu might not be alive enough to withstand a second strike. Chuyu, don't go too far. Before Yao Bin could say anything, Bailey Jun was the first to reprimand him. Chu Liyue turned around and blinked at Bailey Jun. Clan leader Bailey, I'm just explaining to everyone. How is that going too far? Suddenly, she had a look of realization. Oh, are you talking about me injuring this person? We're in a competition, so there has to be a winner, right? Also, we've only exchanged one move. She looked innocent, as if she was at a loss of what to do. A low chuckle suddenly came from the quiet crowd, but it was quickly suppressed. However, this chuckle seemed to have flipped a switch. The originally cold and solemn atmosphere became subtle. Many people could not help but laugh and secretly exchange glances with each other. One move. Wasn't it just one move? From beginning to end, Chu Yu had only swung his sword once. What's more, he didn't do anything. In the end, it was Lil Lu who did not live up to expectations. She could not win with 2 of Bailey Jun's divine pearls, and was even beaten to a pulp by her opponent. Not only did Bailey Jun not feel embarrassed, he even had the cheek to be angry here? What a joke. Originally, everyone thought that those who could be brought here by him must have top-notch talents. Now, it was obvious that she was an idiot who could not handle the situation. They really did not know what Bailey Jun was thinking. No one spoke, and the scene was very quiet. However, everyone's thoughts were more or less expressed on their faces. How could Bailey June not see it? After living for so long, how could he not see the mockery and ridicule of others? He could not feel it. Those people looked at Jiang Ji-won on the ground, then looked at Bailey June with meaningful eyes. Bailey June felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. His face was red and his throat was tight. For a moment, he did not know how to refute. It was a competition. It was a battle. Moreover, it was an extremely crucial match. He couldn't possibly stop them from making a move. Bailey June's blood was rushing through his veins. His heart was beating like a drum, and his temples were throbbing. He was about to explode from anger. He glanced at Jiang Ji-won, feeling both angry and distressed. Get up. If it weren't for the fact that there were so many people watching, he would have personally helped her up. But Rong Xiu's words just now made him vigilant, so he didn't dare to be too presumptuous, so he had no choice but to comply. Jiang Jun also felt wronged. How could she have known that this Chu Yu was actually so terrifying? Once the Venerable One's divine weapon was used, it was simply unstoppable. What was the point of talking about winning or losing? In front of so many people, with the strength of a demigod, he lost to the opponent's rank 8 warrior. This was worse than killing her. She was as proud and complacent as she was at the beginning, and now she was as angry and resentful as she was angry. She struggled to get up, pulling at her wound. It was so painful that her vision turned black. Seeing the mottled bloodstains on the ground, she was shocked and her hatred for the young man in front of her increased. This Chu Yu, was he here specifically to subdue her? At this moment, Chu Luiyue suddenly took a step forward. Jiang Ji-won was frightened and subconsciously took a few steps back. In a moment of carelessness, she fell to the ground again. More blood oozed out of the wounds on her body. It was mottled and messy, and she looked very miserable. What else do you want? Because of nervousness and fear, Jiang Ji-won's voice became shrill and ear-piercing. Chu Luiyue looked at her in surprise. I just wanted to ask if you were going to admit defeat. Why are you so nervous? Jiang Ji-won's face turned red and white. She felt that she had completely lost her face. And Bailey June had already turned his eyes away. Out of sight, out of mind. He really hated to see Jiang Ji-won's useless and cowardly appearance. In the past, Jiang Ji-won was confident, generous, and likable. Why did it suddenly become like this now? There were so many top experts in the Divine Ruins world present, and each of them had a high status. If they saw this scene, who knew how they would mock him behind his back? And Yuntian Tower. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at Rong Xiu, only to see the man leaning against the back of the chair with a relaxed expression and a lazy posture. His thin scarlet lips were slightly raised, as if he was smiling. Smiling? At this time, Rong Xiu could still smile? Didn't he think that this was a loss of face for Yuntian Tower? Holy Sun, say a few words. Bailey June couldn't help but frown and speak. Rong Xiu tilted his head and looked over. His expression was gentle, but his eyes were cold. He had a faint smile on his face. What does the patriarch want I to say? Say what? Of course it was to speak up for Jiang Ji-won. Bailey Chun was infuriated. Rong Xiu was clearly doing this on purpose. Of course, it's about this match. Bailey June reminded him vaguely. As long as Rong Xiu spoke, he represented Yuntian Tower's position. Chu Yu probably couldn't go too far. As if he understood Rong Xiu's hint, Rong Xiu looked enlightened. He turned his gaze and looked at the arena. Chu Yu, he spoke lazily. His voice was low, but it was full of magnetism. It easily tugged at people's heartstrings without batting an eyelid. Everyone pricked up their ears. Then, they heard Rong Xiu say with a faint smile. You did well. Dead silence. Bailey June's expression instantly cracked. Jiang Ji-won looked like she was struck by lightning. She was about to go crazy. She thought Rong Xiu would speak up for them, but he actually went to praise Chu Yu? Son of God. Bailey June tried to suppress the anger in his heart, but his eyes were burning with flames. Little Lu is a member of Yuntian Tower, you patriarch. You just came out of seclusion not long ago, there are some things that you don't know. Rong Xiu interrupted him and chuckled. From the beginning to the end, I stood on junior brother Chu Yu's side, just like the academy. Now that she had won and had proven her strength and innocence, could it be that she was still not worthy of a compliment? Rong Xiu said slowly. Bailey Jun suddenly choked. He knew. Of course he knew. Jiang Juan had told him before that Rong Xiu took great care of Chu Yu. After hearing this, he naturally didn't have a good impression of Chu Yu. This time, he came with the intention of destroying Chu Yu's prestige. He was so focused on helping Jiang Juan vent her anger that he completely forgot about this. Only now did he realize that Rong Xiu had drawn a line between them from the beginning to the end. It was their own business to lose face. What did it have to do with him? Chu Liyue smiled, her eyes curved. Thank you, Your Highness. Then she looked at Jiang Jiwan and raised her eyebrows. It seems that you still don't want to admit defeat? With that, she took another step forward. This step was like stepping on Jiang Jiwan's heart. She stopped breathing and shouted almost reflexively. I admit defeat. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1462. Because of her nervousness and fear, she shouted quickly and hurriedly. She even lost her voice. It was as if she was begging for mercy when someone grabbed her by the neck. Many people sneered, their faces full of sarcasm. That's it? She was really unpresentable. It seemed that Bailey Jun was really old and muddle-headed. Moreover, Rong Xiu's words just now were very meaningful. The two people with the highest status, Yun Tianke and Li Qingshan, clearly had a great disagreement. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were on opposite sides. It was just that they had not completely shed all pretense of cordiality. However, this day might not be long in coming. Chu Liyue nodded in satisfaction, then looked at Yao Bin. Princess Yao, I wonder if you are satisfied with this competition? Yao Bin looked at the scene in front of him in a daze, his mood complicated. In a short time, the situation had taken a turn for the worse. He originally thought that Chu Yu's speech was merely an excuse for him to absolve himself, and it was also extremely absurd, not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. But reality slapped him in the face. At this moment, when he met that pair of black and bright eyes, he felt his face burning. But it could not be helped. Before the results came out, who would have thought that Chu Yu would win? But not only did he win, but he won beautifully. Yao Bin's hands clenched and loosened. In the end, he could only sigh. I believe your previous explanation and am willing to keep my promise. From now on, I will not suspect that you have any unusual relationship with the Black Demon Cave. Yao Bin took a while to accept reality, but it could be said that he was decisive. Then, he took a step forward and cupped his hands at Chu Liyue. Previously, I misunderstood you, so I apologize to you. Chu Liyue tilted her head and smiled. Princess Yao is too polite. I know that you also want to find out the truth, and I can take this opportunity to clear my name. It's a good thing. You don't have to take it to heart. The reason why Yao Bin was so aggressive toward her previously was that he believed in his heart that Chu Liyue had something going on with Black Demon Cave. Purple Light County and the Black Demon Cave had a blood feud, so it was normal for him to have such a reaction. What was rare was that after knowing that he was wrong, he could still apologize in public. He had completely let go of his pride, which could be considered magnanimous and upright. Chu Liyue had a good impression of him. If he wanted to deal with the Black Demon Cave in the future, he might be able to join forces with them. Of course, this was a matter for the future. This thought flashed through Chu Liyue's mind, but she quickly suppressed it. She raised her head slightly and flicked her wrist. Clang. He sheathed his sword. With a brilliant flash of light, Scarlet Heaven Sword returned to her hand. In the surroundings, many gazes fell upon Scarlet Heaven Sword. Chu Liyue's eyes flickered as he sneered in his heart. Today, she took out the Scarlet Heaven Sword, which would definitely attract a lot of trouble. Right now, these people were restraining themselves for the sake of the academy. However, in the future, it was hard to say. He's just relying on the divine might of the Venerable One's divine weapon. A low voice that was obviously suppressing something was heard. Chu Luiwei raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Jiang Jiwan, who had just turned around and was about to retreat. He took a step forward and blocked the other party's path. Jiang Jiwan's heart skipped a beat. She looked up at Chu Luiwei with a trace of panic in her eyes. What are you doing? I should be the one asking you that. Chu Luiwei smiled. Don't tell me you don't understand the principle of accepting defeat? I'm still here. What do you mean by that sentence just now? Everyone looked over again. Jiang Jiwan was extremely nervous. The terrifying experience from the fight just now had left a heavy shadow on her. She almost didn't have the courage to face Chu Luiwei again. However, she was still unwilling to accept it. Avoiding Chu Luiwei's intimidating gaze, Jiang Jiwan lowered her head. I didn't say anything. It seems that you're very dissatisfied with the result of the fight just now. Faced with Chu Luiwei's questioning, Jiang Jiwan was about to break down. She was already in a bad mood after losing. Everyone was praising Chu Yu and belittling her, as if there was a huge gap between them. However, that was not the case. If she also had a venerable artifact, how could she have lost? Therefore, Jiang Jiwan hesitated for a moment and chose to admit it. I'm just telling the truth. She gritted her teeth. If you don't use that venerable artifact and fight with me, it's still unknown who will win. The surroundings were silent for a moment. Everyone could hear the provocation in her words. Bailey Jun opened his mouth and wanted to stop her. However, after thinking about it, he swallowed those words. In fact, he also thought so in his heart. He could tell that Chu Yu's strength was much more powerful than ordinary cultivators of the same level, but it was not so incredible. The most important thing was still that venerable artifact. Chu Luiwei stared at Jiang Jiwan for a while and suddenly smiled. Since you think so, then let's have another fight? As soon as she said that, everyone was shocked. Jiang Jiwan suddenly looked up and looked at her in disbelief. What did you say? Since you're not convinced, then let's change the method and beat you until you're convinced. Chu Luiwei smiled, but every word she said was as sharp as a knife. It was precisely this casual attitude that made Jiang Jiwan's anger explode in an instant. The other party had a venerable artifact, she could not beat him. But if it was a normal fight, how could she not win? However, if that's the case, I won't suppress my strength anymore. Chu Luiwei added. Ninth stage warrior? Jiang Jiwan did not care. She seemed to be afraid that Chu Luiwei would go back on her words and immediately said, Okay, then it's a deal. Digression. The sixth watch might be a little later, about 6:30 p.m. Mobile users, please browse and read, a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1463. Just like that, the two of them decided on a new match with just a few words. No one stopped them. Some people wanted to see if Chu Yu really had the strength to win against a demigod without the venerable artifact. Some people wanted to test the true level of Chu Yu's combat strength. There were also people who purely wanted to watch the show and didn't mind blowing things up. The only people who were worried were the people from Lingxiao College. This kid, Elder Bo Yen, wanted to dissuade them, but before he could say anything, the two of them had already decided. Moreover, this matter was proposed by Chu Yu himself. If he objected, he would look a little guilty. Bo Yen, don't worry. That kid won't lose so easily. Elder Hua Feng leaned closer and said in a low voice. Elder Bo Yen turned his head and glanced at him. How could he be so sure? There was still a difference between a rank 9 warrior and a demigod. Elder Hua Feng suddenly chuckled, touched his chin, and looked at the field. Others didn't know, but he knew. That kid had many trump cards. If he didn't allow him to use Scarlet Heaven Sword, he could still use other trump cards. Poor Xiaolu. He was covered in wounds and thought that he had a chance to turn the tables. There was also Bailey Jun. If he still had a bit of rationality, he wouldn't agree to the second match now. He didn't think about it. Chu Yu suppressed his strength to that of a rank 8 warrior and was still able to wield Scarlet Heaven Sword. How could an ordinary person compare to him? Seeing Elder Huafeng's expression of waiting to watch a good show, Elder Bo Yen felt a little strange, but his heart calmed down a lot. He also turned his head, intending to see how things would develop. Jiang Jiwon took out a pill and swallowed it. A warm and gentle force instantly spread to her limbs and bones. This made her feel much better. Dragging a heavily injured body, her combat strength would definitely be greatly reduced. But she wanted to win too much. What did he eat just now? Why do I smell the scent of a bewildering fragrance pill? Elder Wan Zheng's nose twitched as he frowned slightly. This kind of pill was very precious and could only be refined by venerable doctors. And its effect was extremely special. This kind of medicinal pill could, for a short period of time, allow a cultivator to ignore their injuries and unleash their strongest power. Sometimes, it could even allow a heavily injured person to display strength that exceeded their normal level. However, the side effects of this bewildering fragrance pill were also very strong. This was because this was equivalent to overdrafting the cultivator's physical strength and energy. After half an incense stick of time passed, the body of the person who had taken the pill would rapidly deteriorate. If it was not treated in time, it would leave irreversible damage. Therefore, under normal circumstances, only in a life and death situation would people be willing to use this thing. This was just a competition. It had to be said that Jiang Jiwon was going all out by doing this. That is indeed the bewitching fragrance pill. Rong Xiu said calmly. Elder Wan Zheng's frown deepened. It's just a competition, not a life and death battle. What is he trying to do? Their precious disciple had a good temper and was not someone to be bullied. Rong Xiu looked at the field. Chu Liuyue's shoulders and back were straight, like a pine tree. After seeing Jiang Jiwon take the bewitching fragrance pill, she raised her eyebrows slightly, seemingly a little surprised. Rong Xiu lowered his eyes slightly, hiding the smile that flashed across his eyes. Her acting was really realistic. She was clearly waiting for her opponent to do this, but she still pretended to be surprised. It seemed that this time, she was determined to completely take care of her opponent. Chu Luiyue did it on purpose. It was not like she had nothing better to do. Did she want to do this again just to prove that she was stronger than her opponent? Or did she take the initiative to give up the venerable artifact and fight with her opponent barehanded? Her opponent was brainless, but it did not mean that she was the same. This move was to retreat in order to advance. It could not be simpler. Her opponent's desire to win was very strong. At this time, as long as there was a slight chance of winning, her opponent would grab it tightly. Chu Liuyue thought to herself, Amitba. She had always been kind and could not bear to see others being tortured. Her opponent was about to go crazy and only wanted to die. How could she bear to look on helplessly? It was better to be kind and help Buddha all the way to the west. Please. Chu Liuyue seemed to have heard the words about the bewitching fragrance pill from the people around her. She frowned slightly and looked slightly nervous. Jiang Jiwon clenched her fists. The wounds on her body did not hurt anymore, and there was constantly energy surging from all parts of her body. It gathered in her dantum. It had been a long time since she felt so full of energy and her combat strength was off the charts. Although the bewitching fragrance pill had side effects, she was certain that she could definitely take care of her opponent within half an incense's time. In fact, it would only take one move. Jiang Jiwon's confidence increased greatly, as if she could already imagine the scene after she won. She was filled with excitement, and the expression on her face was almost impossible to hide. She did not want to hide it either. The next moment, she crossed her hands in front of her. The turbulent force gathered. The aura around her increased greatly. After a while, a cry of surprise came from the crowd. Why is her aura still increasing? Is she going to break through to the exalted God realm? Not long after that, a light appeared between Jiang Jiwon's brows. A totem appeared clearly, and the pressure on her body officially broke through to the exalted God realm. Relying on the power of the bewitching fragrance pill, she forcefully raised her realm temporarily. Many people's expressions changed slightly. When they looked at Chu Luiyue again, they could not help but shake their heads. Although this was very dangerous, it was very useful. A exalted god powerhouse could easily crush a stage 9 warrior with one hand, right? Jiang Jiwon felt a tearing pain in her body. It was caused by forcefully raising her realm. But she did not care. As long as she could win, what did this matter? That she threw out a punch. It was simple and direct. At this time, tyrannical strength was better than any tricks. The shadows of her fists were everywhere, heading straight for Chu Liyue's face. She did not move. Why isn't Chu Yu moving? Is he stupid? Some people secretly frowned. Even if he could not win, he could run. What was the point of standing there in a daze? However, just as that terrifying power was about to crush and devour Chu Liyue, a clear cry suddenly resounded through the world. Screech! A crimson gold light burst out from Chu Liyue's body and instantly flourished. Then, a huge figure appeared in front of Chu Liyue. Its entire body was golden and its pressure was impressive. Crimson gold heavenly phoenix. Everyone was shocked on the spot. Some of them could not even suppress their impulse and directly stood up. They stared dumbfoundedly at the ancient mythological beast that had suddenly appeared. How? That's Chu Yu's contracted divine beast. Someone suddenly shrieked with a trembling voice. Boom! Dumpling's wings flapped, and the heavy shadows of the fists dissipated with a loud bang. Jiang Jiwon was also shocked. Her whole body was cold, and great fear surged in her heart. Crimson gold heavenly phoenix? When did this happen? Dumpling. Chu Liyue said with a smile. Bring this person to have a good walk. Screech. Dumpling leaned down and clamped Jiang Jiwon with its claws. It flew up. Chu Liyue touched his chin. Half an incense's time, it would be over after 2 rounds. Digression. Tomorrow is the 11th of the double 11. I don't know if I'm going to write or look at Taobao at night. Sob. Chapter 1464. Dumpling's extremely sharp claws pierced through Jiang Jiwon's skin and dug deep into her flesh. The sharp pain caused Jiang Jiwon's face to turn ghastly pale. The reddish gold flame burned as if it was going to roast and devour her. Jiang Jiwon was shocked and terrified as she struggled with all her might. However, her strength was nothing in front of the reddish gold celestial phoenix. It was true that she had broken through to the great deity level, but the other party was an ancient divine beast. The two of them were not on the same level at all. What was there to fight over? It was a complete suppression. Jiang Jiwon endured the pain and forced herself to look down. She was shocked to find that she was being taken away. Where did this beast want to take her? If she could not break free after half an hour, then she was done for. Deep fear surged in Jiang Jiwon's heart. She hurriedly mobilized all the strength in her body, wanting to struggle out. Let me down. You beast. Let me go. Dumpling's gaze turned cold. She was courting death. Dumpling flew even faster while exerting force with its claws. It actually broke a few of Jiang Jiwon's ribs. Hiss! Jiang Jiwon sucked in a breath of cold air from the pain. Her whole body trembled. She even vaguely felt that those sharp claws were about to dig out her internal organs. Immense fear surged in her heart. Jiang Jiwon's pale lips trembled. She could not rely on herself. She was afraid that, help! Clan, smack! Dumpling swung one of its wings down and directly slapped Jiang Jiwon's head. There was a dull thud. Jiang Jiwon's vision turned black, and she fainted right away. Dumpling leisurely carried the stiff Jiang Jiwon just like that and flew further away. Master said that he had to make 2 rounds. In the square, everyone was stunned by this sudden scene. For a long time, no one made a sound. She left just like that? What was going on? Seeing Jiang Jiwon being taken away, Bailey Jun was the first to react. He suddenly stood up and stared at Chu Liyue. Chu Yu, what are you doing? His stern voice was filled with anger. Chu Liyue narrowed his eyes and then smiled. Clan leader Bailey, didn't everyone see clearly what I was doing? I'm competing. What kind of competition is this? That reddish gold celestial phoenix, That crimson gold celestial phoenix is my contracted divine beast. There's nothing wrong with me summoning it to battle, right? Chu Liyue's lips curved up, but her eyes were cold and clear. I've already promised not to use that divine artifact. Could it be that I'm not even allowed to summon magical beasts? Bailey Junes. Of course, there was no such logic in the world. Any cultivator who had a contract with a magical beast would always tacitly agree that the magical beast was one with them. There was nothing wrong with that. It was just that the contracted magical beast he had summoned was too shocking. Ancient divine beast. Only a few of the people present had seen it before, let alone a contract? If you think I'm breaking the rules by summoning Dumpling, then shouldn't you have said it in advance? Isn't it a bit late to mention it now? Chu Liyue said slowly. Bailey June's face turned pale. Say it in advance? How would he have thought that this ordinary-looking youth would actually have such a trump card hidden up his sleeve? If he had known, he wouldn't have let Jiang Jiwan fight. But it was too late to say anything now. He looked up and saw that Jiang Jiwan had been taken further away. That reddish-gold celestial phoenix had no intention of coming back. Half an hour would pass soon. If Jiang Jiwan couldn't be treated in time, then ask that reddish-gold celestial phoenix to bring Yuan Xiao Lu back immediately. If anything happens to her, I won't let you go. Chu Liyue blinked. But isn't the competition still ongoing? Bailey June was fuming. What competition? I'm ordering you to stop the competition immediately. Chu Liyue's smile was polite but cold. Patriarch Bailey, you don't seem to have the right to say that right now? Bailey June had been the patriarch of Yuntian Tower for 100 years. He had always been high and mighty. When had he ever been refuted like this? And in front of so many people? Chu Liyue's words ignited the fire in his heart that had been suppressed for a long time. How dare you? Before he finished his words, he raised his hand and a force flew out. The force turned into a sword and flew towards Chu Liyue's chest. The sound of air breaking was ear-piercing. Everyone's expression changed. No one expected that Bailey June would suddenly make a move. Elder Bo Yen and Elder Wanjing made a move together. Chu Yu, be careful. However, there was one person who was faster than them. A golden stream of light streaked across the sky and instantly transformed into a huge net. It arrived first and surrounded the sword. Then it quickly tightened. Bang! A crisp sound was heard. The sword shattered with a loud bang. The terrifying force spread in all directions, but it was quickly swallowed by the golden net and disappeared without a sound. Then, the golden net quickly condensed into a small butterfly. It paused on Chu Liyue's shoulder for a while before quietly dissipating. Chu Liyue's eyes flickered. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. From the beginning to the end, Bailey June's force did not even touch Chu Liyue's body. Everyone quieted down. Their eyes wandered back and forth between Rong Xiu and Bailey June. They all had different thoughts. The one who made a move was actually Rong Xiu. Although they had long known that these two people were not on good terms, they had always thought that Rong Xiu and Bailey June would not fall out with each other for the sake of the Yuntian Tower and other factors. However, they did not expect everything to happen so quickly. Rong Xiu's interference was akin to slapping Bailey June's face in front of everyone. There was no turning back now that he had made a scene in front of so many people. Rong Xiu had always been farsighted and strategizing. It was impossible that he did not know how far the situation would go once he made a move. However, he still did it. Moreover, he did it without hesitation. Even Elder Wanzheng and the others were a step slower. The atmosphere was tense and the space was frozen. Bailey June's expression was extremely ugly. He stared at Rong Xiu. Your Highness, what is the meaning of this? He had only been in seclusion for a few years, but the moment he came out, the world had changed. Now, Rong Xiu was becoming more and more arrogant. He actually dared to fight him in public. Where was his face? What Bailey June did not know was that Rong Xiu did not care about his face at all. The reason why he made a move just now was very simple. Of course, I will protect my people, said Qin Wenyan. His expression was open and magnanimous, and his voice was low and pleasant. He leaned against the back of the chair, his posture languid and calm. It was as if he did not care about what happened just now at all. The competition is still going on. Patriarch, if you act so rashly, won't others think that Yuntian Tower can't afford to lose? Before Bailey June could fly into a rage, Rong Xiu spoke first. A hint of a smile flashed across his lips as he reminded, everyone is still watching. You can afford to lose face, but don't drag Yuntian Tower down with you. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1465. Bailey June had never been so embarrassed. However, Rong Xiu's attitude was firm and reasonable. He didn't know how to refute it. What shocked him even more was that Rong Xiu's strength seemed to be stronger than he expected. Indeed, he only used 50% of his strength in that attack, but the fact that Rong Xiu could block it so easily was already very telling. After calming down for a moment, he took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the resentment and anger in his heart. He couldn't drag it on any longer. Jiang Jiwan's body couldn't hold on for that long. Thinking of this, Bailey June took a deep breath and looked at Chu Luiyue. In that case, this old man will represent her to admit defeat. This way, the competition can finally end? Everyone looked at each other. Bailey Chun really treated that person called Xiao Lu well. Since you've said so, of course there's no problem. Chu Luiyue smiled. Bailey June snorted and sat back on the chair. However, after waiting for a while, the crimson gold heavenly phoenix didn't return with Jiang Jiwan. His brows furrowed once more as he questioned, Chuyu, why is your crimson gold heavenly phoenix still wandering around there? There wasn't much time left. Chu Luiyue smiled. Oh, you're talking about that. Dumpling hasn't come out to play for a while. It's rare for her to come out, so she's wild. It might take a while for her to come back. Bailey June suddenly became anxious. A while? Then wouldn't it be meaningless for me to take the initiative to compromise? You ask it to come back immediately. Xiao Lu is injured and needs to be treated as soon as possible. Chu Luiyue looked troubled. But Dumpling is lively and sometimes doesn't listen to me. You see, Bailey June was about to die of anger. What nonsense are you talking about? Since it's your contracted magical beast, it should obey you. If you ask it to come back, would it dare to disobey? How dare it? Chu Luiyue replied immediately. She blinked her eyes and smiled apologetically. Oh, you probably don't know, but Dumpling is an ancient divine beast, so its temper is a bit bigger. Sometimes, even I can't do anything about it. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. He didn't know. Who would know such a thing? They didn't have any contracts with ancient divine beasts. This Chuyu's mouth was really poisonous. Patriarch. Rong Xiu suddenly tilted his head and smiled faintly. When Xiao Lu swallowed the bewildering fragrance pill, he should have thought of this result. We have to be responsible for our own choices, don't we? Bailey June was speechless. He was anxious and regretful. However, he did not dare to reveal Jiang Jiwan's true identity. In that case, his face would be completely lost. In the future, Jiang Jiwan might not even be able to return to the Yuntian Tower. He could be biased and protective of her, but if it involved the interests of the Yuntian Tower, not to mention Rong Xiu, 36 respected Elder Ming and the others would not let it go. Therefore, he could only accept it. Time passed by bit. Seeing that half an incense was about to burn out, Bailey June finally couldn't help but speak again. Chuyu, this old man will say it one last time, if anything happens to Xiao Lu, you will not be able to get away with it. This Chuyu was clearly doing it on purpose. He stood up. This old man will go personally. If that crimson gold heavenly phoenix did not come back, he could go after it himself. However, just when Bailey June thought that Chu Luiyue would continue to stall for time this time, she suddenly smiled brightly. Patriarch Bailey, why are you in such a hurry? Look, isn't that back? What? Bailey June was stunned and looked up following Chu Luiyue's line of sight. Sure enough, he saw a streak of crimson gold streaking across the sky quickly. It was the crimson gold heavenly phoenix that had left for a while. Chu Liwei seemed to heave a sigh of relief as she waved at Tuanzi. Dumpling, you're finally back. Didn't you see how anxious Patriarch Bailey was? Don't do this again in the future. Dumpling swung its claws and directly threw Jiang Jiwan's book to the ground. Then, it folded its wings and changed back to the size of a palm, squatting on Chu Liui's shoulder. Chu Liui patted its head. Good job. Dumpling obediently and proudly went forward, wanting to rub her face. But before he could even touch it, he could already feel a wave of coldness assaulting him. Its body stiffened and it obediently turned around. Then, it looked at Rong Xiu, who was not far away, with hidden bitterness. It was clearly its master, but it was not allowed to be intimate. But how overbearing! Sooner or later, its master would help it take revenge. Chu Liuei did not notice the surging undercurrent and looked at Jiang Jiwan, who was lying motionless on the ground. At this moment, Jiang Jiwan was covered in blood and bruises, and her face was as pale as a ghost. If it were not for the last weak breath, everyone would have thought that she was dead. Bailey Jun moved and was about to go over. Chu Liuei was a step ahead and walked to Jiang Jiwan's side. Don't touch her! Bailey Jun was frightened and shouted sternly. Chu Liuei looked up with some surprise and a trace of confusion appeared in her eyes. I just want to help take a look at her injuries. Don't worry, I'm also a celestial physician. Moreover, even if she really wanted to do something, she wouldn't do it in front of so many people. This Bailey clan leader was truly too concerned that his mind was in a mess. Chu Liuei lowered her eyes slightly and a deep thought flashed through her mind. If she remembered correctly, this Bailey family leader had never married in his life and had no children. Moreover, he was very strict and harsh. The only person he cared about so much seemed to be. Thinking of this, Chu Liui's heart skipped a beat. She raised her hand and reached out to his face. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.